On this episode of the Star Wars Time Show, Matt and Nick will try not to spend the opening 30 minutes crying about IG wiping their account, but they will travel a bit out of the galaxy to talk about last week's box office Barbenheimer event. The dudes will veer back to the known galaxy to talk some Star Wars Outlaws and a wild rumor about John Wick appearing in the Acolyte. So it's not a full-on Barbie world after all. You never know where things may go in a light topic week, so strap in and prepare to be stupefied. Probably in a bad way. Of course, the show will end with the question of the week responses and the latest round of Top Star Wars Aficionados. Punch it, Chewie.
Hey now, everybody. Can anybody hear me? Oh, wow, I don't have my lid on. That's always a little scary. Hold on. Hold on. Here we go. Hey now, welcome. Kung Fu Treachery, big fan of the later start. Hell, we've been doing that since what? When did you have to go back to work, Nick? April? March?
Yeah, like March, I think.
Feels like forever, man. Like, time flies, but then like the past feels like forever away. You know what I mean? Like are you one of these people that you feel once the summer crosses July 4th that the summer's essentially over? Are you like me?
Oh, dude, I don't fucking track summer anymore. Yeah. Like there's not even a thought in my head that passes for summer other than the temperature outside. I don't have any kids. I don't work in school.
See, I was going to say, I think that's the point is that having a kid, you kind of get used to the cycle again, you know, the cycle of life, and obviously got to deal with them when they're home from school. But it just really is. Like, I just, summer feels like it's going nice and slow, and then July 4th happens, and then boom. July's over. August, kids back in school. Fuck, new semester begins. Here we go. It's Christmas. Let's rock and roll. So, boy, let's do this, right? Not a lot of Star Wars to talk about today, my friends. Not a lot at all. I mean, luckily, we got some scraps from SDCC. I was like, we're not even going to touch on the Ahsoka stuff because all they did was, and I'm sure Nick didn't even see it. I only saw it by accident. All they did was have a gallery of some Ahsoka props. So it's like, you know, what can we do with that on the show? We really can't do shit with that. So
I guess I did see that then because I saw that was like Super Scoundrel and like props were putting some stuff up on Instagram just showing like what they were seeing or whatever.
Yeah. So like, I mean, there's like it seemed like an exhibit. Ahsoka's costume was there, screen used. The sabers were there, so you got an up close and personal of Baylan and Shin's sabers. Baylan's got a pretty slick looking hilt, not gonna lie. Depending on how that character goes and if they're gonna try to immortalize him with collectibles, that could be a saber to add to the collection. It's got some personality to it. You know what I mean? It's got like the spikes coming off the emitter. It looks hard, you know? It looks like a ham-ass motherfucking lightsaber. Shin's a little more elegant. And then Sabine's, what they're calling Sabine's. I mean, it's Ezra's. So
it's Ezra's lightsaber.
Yeah, it's looking slick. I mean, I guess I never saw Ezra's live action practical prop, and it's a good looking blade. He followed a little bit of his masters around the emitter, I believe. Kind of has the Cal Kestis default emitter feel to it. If you're into that milk toast motherfucker. But yeah, I mean, really, they didn't give us anything to chew on from SDCC in as far as Ahsoka goes. But we did get another Outlaws dump, so we'll be talking about that. You know what I mean? There we go. We got Matty Palanca. He was at SDC, checked him up close and personal. Agrees with me. He knows I'm right. Baylan's was the best. Thank you for that field report, Matthew.
I have both of Ahsoka's sabers.
Oh, you do? You got the set? Like is it the
from
like the
Disney.
Masters or whatever the fuck they are?
I got it from the parks, the Disney section of
Got
or
it.
the Star Wars section of
All
Disney.
right.
Whatever it's called. Not it's the I can't remember the name of the fucking store now. Savvy's Workshop. That's what it was. Yeah. So I got those from there. Last time we went to Disney, which was what 2021.
Dude, you're not booking the foreclosure flights on the Galactic Cruiser.
No, I mean, like that was always. I mean, that was another one of like Bob Chapek's like really bad ideas to try to like exploit people for more money, which clearly didn't work.
$6,000 for 2 nights.
Yeah, I mean, like
I would have done it though. I
his-
would have done it. I'm not fucking around. Like if it didn't just
There was
explode
no
in
way.
Disney's face and it was still around, I would have done it. There's no fucking doubt about it. I'm the fucking rube that they were going for. But yeah, I mean, from a business model standpoint, major fail. Like major fail.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of Bob Chapek's legacy as Disney CEO is he jacked up prices on the parks.
Yeah, he was taxing you
opened up
motherfuckers.
this like he opened up like this super luxury hotel that nobody could afford to stay at, and then what happened? Park attendance went down, and nobody went to that hotel.
yeah,
so
now
like,
he's working at the Citgo. That's kind of how things go.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
they got Lord Iger
so-
back here waving his magic wand of cost cutting. It's like, just slash your fucking bonuses, Bob, and you could probably pay your writers a little bit more. Yeah, speaking of writing, you know, we do have some Star Wars to talk today. Like I say, Star Wars Outlaws. We got a pretty big BTS dump from Julian Grady, the creative director, hearing a lot more stuff that I'm digging about this game. Like, unless they completely fuck it up at launch, Nick, and it's just full of bugs and you know game saving or game breaking glitches, I don't know how I'm not going to fully enjoy this game and get fully immersed in it. So we're going to talk about that. Yeah, we got some other shit. You never know where to go. I got a special topic in my pocket. No, that is not my erect penis. That is a special topic down there today. So maybe we'll get there. But we got to start things off with some pop culture talk because, Nick, it's been a long time due to various reasons, pandemic, apathy for the theater, so on and so forth. But last week it felt like we had our first normal summer blockbuster release in 4 years probably. And I'm talking about the Barbenheimer event. So both Chris Nolan's Oppenheimer and Greta Gerwig's Barbie both launched last week on the 21st. And it became a thing. Like even before the movie came out, like again, brilliant marketing on behalf of the Barbie team, Mattel. I don't know what they did. I don't know whose soul was sold to the devil, but they smoked it. And then you got this Barbenheimer movement going on.
$150 million marketing budget will do that for you.
Well,
So,
it made $155 million and almost doubled Oppenheimer's take. It was the largest haul this year. It's the 10th largest haul in movie history, at least for a summer blockbuster opening weekend during whatever week it released. And if you got to qualify it, they should just give her due. But it's the highest grossing female directed opening of all time. But it just I don't know how it worked, man. You had these two polar opposite films, completely different genres, completely different audiences. Yet both of them benefited from this Barbenheimer movement. I mean, Oppenheimer made a cool $87 million. It outperformed its projections too. So I got in on the fun. Last week was actually a triple movie week for me because Stunt Buddy was in town. So we went and checked out Mission Impossible 7. I'll do a quick one on there, Nick. I was expecting it to be one of my favorite, and it is not. There's something about Mission Impossible 7 that just, I don't know, it felt a little cheap. It didn't play as well as like the last two recent ones. Obviously, it's a part 1, so you were contending with that. They had some CG issues, which is weird for a Tom Cruise movie. I wouldn't think he would allow that shit to happen. Some of the edits were a bit overreaching on some scenes where they could have benefited from playing things out, but still good, still worth watching if you like MI. But the Barbenheimer stuff blew MI out of the water. Like if you wanted me to rank the 3 new movies I watched last week, it'd be Oppenheimer, Barbie, MI7. MI7 a far third. Oppenheimer and Barbie, like I said, completely different types of movies. Oppenheimer, if you are a Nolan fanboy like myself, I just found out Nick hates the guy, so that's always good. I like when Nick is completely opposite of what I like. But I've always enjoyed Christopher Nolan. I think he's one of the best modern filmmakers out there. I love how he uses sound, music, and just the way he films shit to tell his stories. And Oppenheimer, for me, Nick, is one of his three best, I think. I mean, I would put Interstellar and Inception probably in that top three. Obviously, I like his Batmans. I like The Prestige. I like Memento. I mean, I like the guy, but Oppenheimer definitely stands out. I love history, love World War II, love science. And so it kind of scratched all those itches. Cillian Murphy is a fucking Mac Daddy. I mean, the guy, I would imagine, speaks like 50,000 lines. I mean, it's a 3-hour movie and he's kind of the guy. So that's a big ask for an actor. So good for him. But it's great. I mean, I didn't know much about Oppenheimer. I know about the Manhattan Project, and obviously, he's the father of the apocalypse and all that shit. But I had no clue about his early ties to, some of the socialist communist movements in America, and kind of what happened to him in the 50s with McCarthyism and how he essentially saved our asses. And then kind of like you're seeing these days where, people don't agree with science, or, you get some wackos in Congress launching these hearings and whatnot. He kind of got beat out of town, shit on, security clearances revoked, was cut out of the Atomic Council until many years later when, America was like, oh shit, we suck. Why do we do that to this guy? Let's give him a medal. So it's Nolan's style of filmmaking with some great biopic style history. Barbie, on the other hand, is one of the most unique fucking movies I've ever watched. It is so silly in a great way. It's not silly like, oh, it's dumb, you'll like it. It's silly in a way that works perfect for a movie about living plastic dolls that have been living in this Barbie land, kind of sequestered from the rest of the real world. And being a dad girl, or a father of a little girl, knowing the bullshit she's going to go through in life, I absolutely love the message. It's probably a little too adult. It's not like there's, Ken and Barbies and they're scissoring in this movie. By too adult, I mean the message is, it's a little more. You got to have a little more brain juice than a 7-year-old to fully understand what they're trying to portray with the patriarchy in society, and how women are typically not looked at as the same caliber and quality as men, just at face value. So I love that message. Being a father of a little girl, I want her to know that shit as much as possible, because once she hits middle school, high school, she's gonna have to start dealing with that reality that she isn't quite the same as her white male father in terms of how society may treat her. So we enjoyed it. Charlie liked it, but she liked it for different reasons than I did. Let's just leave it at that. But in the end, I think it deserves the opening weekend it had. I hope it has some legs. I hope word of mouth gets out there. This is something you should see. It is more than just a movie about real Barbies. It's good shit. It's good shit. You should know it's good and intelligent with the far right's reaction to it. Okay? Like, if you're a normal person that doesn't get all inflamed about women being in control, you'll like it. You'll think it's intelligent. You'll think it's modern. But if you kind of subscribe to the alpha bro, the Rogan way of life, then yeah, you're going to think it's way too woke, and you probably should just stay away. So there you go. It's well worth it, though. Well worth it. I don't think the opening weekend was a fluke.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like people are really enjoying it. I mean, so here's what I'll say about the whole kind of craze behind it. I mean, it was clear they had a huge marketing budget from the start. Like I said, they had $150 million marketing budget, so it was massive. But also, it kind of checks all the boxes to like activate people to go to the theaters again. Like, it is one of the most recognizable brands on the planet. Like Barbie is synonymous with children's toys has been synonymous with children's toys for fucking decades now. So like just the name, like the brand value of the name itself was going to rocket that to like a high opening box office. Second thing is this, like, Margot Robbie has like such a huge following just from her previous work in, you know, the DC universe, and then obviously in big films like Wolf of Wall Street and stuff like that. So her following is massive, and that was going to help it. And I think the other thing that really like pushed it over that edge was
Gosling's abs and Simu Liu's abs.
I don't even think that like I don't think that Ryan Gosling really moved the needle on this, because if you look at the marketing for it, he's barely in it. Like Ryan Gosling is like,
what about Michael Cera's Alan? He may be the best character in the movie.
I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't even know he was in the movie.
Yeah, because he's like one of the only men in Barbie Land that isn't a Ken. He's the Alan. He's just like a one-off random doll.
Yeah. So like, I think that it really has to do with the brand recognition of the name, Margot Robbie as a whole, and the fact that it's a family comedy. Like, I know it's rated PG-13, but like parents, like this is the type of movie that like parents are going to say, I'm going to take my kid to, but like they're going to see it for themselves. And I think we're
getting reports. It is like little kids aren't going to, like Bat's saying here, his girls fell asleep. Hey man, listen, Margot is a draw, not just because of the way she looks. She's actually quite talented at what she does. But I mean, I've been, like you said, I think Wolf of Wall Street is where I first kind of keyed on to her, and big surprise, like some of the scenes she does there. It's like, if you're a male that prefers the female, gender, it's hard not to notice Margot in the Wolf of Wall Street. But obviously she's had a hell of a career beyond there. It's I don't know. Listen, when I went Thursday to Oppenheimer and I saw all of the women in their pink and pink dresses, that's when I texted Stumpy. I was like, Barbie is going to trounce Oppenheimer this weekend.
Oh, dude, it was never a competition. And in my opinion, as somebody who like does this kind of shit, Oppenheimer got boosted big time by this duo thing, by this like Barbenheimer craze.
Yeah, and I'll tell you why. I was seeing, at least Thursday and Friday when we went, it was more packs of like older women and their friends going than families.
Yeah,
and I don't consider that a demo that goes to the movies a lot either together. Do you?
No, I mean, my mom and her friends will like go catch like very select movies together. Like stuff like Mamma Mia and stuff like that. Like she'll go with her friends to see that. And like, that is the kind of activation that Barbie had.
Yeah.
And
like gaggles, man. I'm talking like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. Like they're rolling deep. Yeah.
And like, the reason that I'm saying, like, if Barbie was not coming out this weekend and there was no like combo between like Barbie and Oppenheimer and this huge, like, truly like viral, this is the first time that I've seen like a truly viral moment happen in like marketing almost organically. Like, obviously, Barbie had a huge marketing budget, but like the combo thing that happened with these two movies was like a purely like viral organic thing. It's the first time I've seen it happen in a while for any film. And the reason that I think that like it boosted, that like Oppenheimer got the boost that it got from it, like it's made $180 million worldwide up to this point. I think Barbie's made 360, so it's like it's doubled it. But like, here's the thing: all of those things that you said that you liked about that movie, those are not box office draws. Like history, stories about
this Oppenheimer is not a summer blockbuster. On paper, it's not.
Like, and then you're also coming off of a rough previous movie from
Tenet.
Like Tenet from what's his name, from Nolan. Like that's movie
his worst movie.
Million.
Well, he also didn't he release it September 2020? I mean, it was like tail end or August 2020. So he was just like, "Fuck it, I'm putting this in movies. People aren't allowed to watch it," because it was like the height of the pandemic. So yeah, I mean,
so
it was a bit of a stumble, as Baba Booey would say.
Yeah, so like obviously bad box office from there, like mixed reviews at best. A lot of people didn't like that movie. So like Nolan was already starting to kind of like dip a bit in the box office. And if I really do feel like if Oppenheimer released by itself, you would have gotten maybe half of what you got.
No, Nick, you're not, because I'm a fucking dork. So I was reading all the numbers, and early projections for Oppenheimer pre like the Barbenheimer movement was about 40 million. So you're about spot on. Because listen, Barbenheimer isn't just some fucking cute thing we're saying. There were theaters running this promo,
double feature.
Yeah, like 5 hours. Here you go, Barbenheimer, sign up. So it was a real deal thing. And you know what? Good for cinema, good for movie making. Like, I don't care if you hate Nolan, if you hate Greta, if you hate girls, you hate history. As someone that loves going to the movie theater, filmmaking in general, I felt good for the industry last week. I was like, well, there you go. We still can get out in droves and go watch fucking movies to motivate these assholes to pay their people so we can start seeing news stories within the next year or so. Because talking to Stun Buddy, you know, he's obviously he's in SAG-AFTRA, and he's like, listen, if we don't get, I think they go back to talk in September. And if they don't get something done there, you're looking at any movie planned for the fall probably getting pushed because the talent is not allowed to promote. So think of a movie like Dune 2 set for November 3rd. If they don't get the shit figured out quickly in the fall, Dune's probably getting pushed. Even though it's done, the talent is not allowed to promote, so the studios are not going to release these things. Oppenheimer, guess what? When they were out on their press tour, the moment the strike came down, the entire cast walked off the stage because they would be essentially scabs if they did not do so. So, I mean, I guess get into the theater while you can, because there is a chance some of the new releases planned for late fall, early fall could be getting bumped because of this strike stuff. So it was at least good to see that they still can get butts and seats in large numbers and you know, kind of prove to some of these assholes like, yeah, making movies is still a worthwhile investment.
Yeah. I mean, it's good for the theaters. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how these studios react or how they come to the table in September. I mean, A24, the smaller kind of independent movie production studio has already signed I think they whatever they did, they have capitulated to whatever the asks were that SAG-AFTRA had and the Writers Guild, so they're allowed to work again. People like actors and writers and stuff like that can go back to work on A24
I didn't even
films.
know that was a thing. I thought their union would have to vote on that. But yeah, you never know what sort of caveats are in those contracts and in the language.
Yeah, I mean, that's
use.
They went to they essentially went to both of the guilds and were like, hey, we are we agree to all your terms, whatever terms that the Writers Guild and the SAG Guild were putting out there as their positions for the studios to accept or not accept. A24 is hey, we accept, and we're there, and SAG and the Writers Guild were all right, well, let's go back to work with A24 now. Everybody else, fuck you.
All right, well, there we go. We'll be getting some good. I don't even consider A24 indie anymore, but I guess they still kind of are, even though they've put out some pretty great films over the past few years. If you're paying attention, Blumhouse. I mean, Blumhouse kind of cornered the horror market indie style. They've put out some good shit as well. So, hey, you never know, but if we ever get a Star Wars movie back in theaters, hopefully Barbie 2 or 3 is releasing at the same time so it can get a little bit of that Barbenheimer love that Oppenheimer did, because I have a feeling it's going to need it by the time Star Wars hits the theaters again, if ever. That's right. I saw that today. UPS and the Teamsters reached a historic agreement today. So I don't know. Maybe that'll push the elites or the entertainment industry, but I doubt it. Just last week, Nick, I got a quick one here. Stunt Buddy again, in town. I haven't seen him for a long time. We went out to eat, and he's like, look at this shit. Apparently at Universal Studios, there's all these like big trees. And it was right where the strikers were picketing.
Oh, they
yeah.
cut the
So
trees
overnight,
down.
they trimmed the trees without a permit. You know, this is in California, so shit's pretty liberal. Like, if you're gonna fuck with nature, you need to get a pass to fuck with nature. So Universal, they're like, yeah, whatever. They just fucking shaved them all down. Now the city, I think, is gonna sue them. This, that, and the other thing. But it was to fuck the strikers and not give them any shade. So I mean, these you got to understand, the people that run companies in a capitalistic society, corporate America, corporate anywhere, they're fucking horrible people. Like, they may go home to their family and be like, oh yeah, I love you, I go to church and all this shit, but deep down, the choices they make should send them to hell, if there is a hell and a God that judges humans.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like, if you were like still on the fence about like who to support in this thing, which I don't know why you would be, but like, just think about that. They literally, like, these people were just standing outside in the shade when the United States is going through a historic heat wave. And what do? They trim the trees to cut the shade out for like people who are just striking for better wages and like to not be replaced by AI in the future. Yeah. Like, come on. Like,
well, like, BMAD's got a point, and I'll explain why. BMAD's saying here on the live stream, by the way, if you want to join the live stream, 5 p East, Tuesdays, youtube.com/Star Wars Time Show. Come hang out with the regulars, myself and Nick. But BMAD's saying here, I've seen a lot of people talking crap about the writers, and he's not wrong. You got to remember who owns the media. Who owns CNN? Warner Brothers. Who owns ABC? Disney. All right, you can go down the list. Like, any major news network, be it cable news or local news, is the worst. That's controlled by like far right overlords at this point in time. Just there's clips out there from John Oliver. Just go watch it. They read the same copy across the nation. It's freaky. But any of these cable news or bigger news outlets, they're all controlled by the companies that their employees are striking from. So what do you think the tone, the messaging is going to be in the news? It's, oh, these whiny elite fucks, look at these pieces of shit. They, you know, we give them this and that, and yeah, they're in Hollywood. Some of them are famous, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so that's called FUD. FUD is used in a lot of sectors. I believe the term comes from, you know, the finance sector, but that's FUD. You just put out a bunch of fear, uncertainty, and bullshit about the demand or the lack thereof it, and you can move meters, and it works. Because as we've tried to teach you on the Star Wars Time Show, everyone needs media literacy. Like, you've got to be able to read through the messaging and understand what is real, what's not. What are the facts? What's bullshit? But pretty much anything you're going to get about this strike on the news is going to be tainted from the side of the corporations. So yes, they're going to make the striking talent look like piles of garbage. All right. You know, you come here for Star Wars and you get on something. And something's the key word there, because I don't really know at the time what the fuck we're talking about. All right, don't worry about it, Comic Dad 42. You're never late. If you're here for the top 5, we always do that last anyway. So strap in for more Barbenheimer talk. Fuck Star Wars time. Okay, we talked about Ethan Hunt and his less than great sequel there. So let's get into some of that Star Wars time. All right. So, you know, speaking of price tags and the cost of making entertainment, our next story here is pretty relevant, especially based on what we were talking about last week with, you know, Koss and Bob Iger trying to shave off like $3.5 billion out of their $5.5 billion budget. And most of that's going to come at the expense of Marvel, little Lucasfilm here and there. You never know. So a report came out today, Nick, from Forbes. So I was like, all right, Forbes, they kind of know their money shit, I think. And it was about the Acolyte and its hefty price tag for pre-production. So this is where we need Nick here, because as I read this article, I'm like, what are they? Are they talking about pre-production? Is it like pre as in all the shit they do before they go shoot? Or are they talking about the actual production and its pre-post? Who the fuck knows? But they're throwing out some weird numbers, so I want to get your thoughts on this. So the main crux of the article, and again, I don't know why the Acolyte is getting picked on for budgets and whatnot, especially at this time when Disney's looking at cutting shit. I think it's all relays back to, women are running it and this, that, and the other thing. But anyways, it was released today, and it sounds like Disney released it, that the Acolyte's pre-production budget reached $49 million. So, Nick, as you read that or as you're reading it now, when it says pre-production, is that like all the concept art phase and casting and costume design? Or is that like building the sets and shooting and so on and so forth?
Yeah, so like for it's tough because I'm not 100% sure what like goes into pre-production costs. So I looked it up, but here it says, breaking down standard film budget. Pre-production. Pre-production is developing the script, assembling the cast, finding locations. Standard film expenses at this stage depend on the complexity of the screenplay and the talent involved. Stuff like that. So that seems like $49 million seems like you pay is like your pay for your cast and your crew, the development of your script and your locations.
Okay.
So that's kind of, from what I can gather, that's how that breaks down.
All right, so let's give them some context. So, we just threw out that number there, and you're probably like, who gives a shit? It's entertainment biz, $49 million. Really doesn't sound like that much. But according to Forbes, the Acolyte's $49 million pre-production was more than what was spent to pre-produce Rogue One, and almost as much as what it took to pre-produce TLJ. Now, I that comparison to me, Nick, isn't quite apples to apples because those are films. They're, they may have a bigger production, it may not. But again, we're dealing with maybe a 2 to 2.5 hour runtime versus these shows where it could be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours worth of content. So you're talking about the Acolyte could potentially be 2 to 3 movies depending on the runtime of its episodes. So I don't really get comparing it to the movies to start.
So I think that because of how pre-production costs are calculated and it not having to do with like shooting days and like camera operators and like all of the stuff that goes into like the production side of the budget, since it is more based on like paying your talent, script development, directors, locations and stuff like that, like that's why they're making the comparison, because they're like, well, look at this pre-production for a TV show versus pre-production for a movie. And that's what they're trying to say. It's like the pre-production for a movie, or like previously, like before Prestige TV and before you had streaming services that were making like, truly like movie quality TV shows, your production and your pre-production budget on a TV show would always be lower. Maybe your production budget would be like a little bit more similar because you have more days of production on TV than you do on movies. But I think what they're pointing to is that like the cost of the talent and the cost of like potentially location filming and script development is what they're really like pointing to.
I look at it as like good. Let's invest as much money as we can in the pre. Like let's get it as practical looking as we can, which could very well be the case because we've seen set leaks of the Acolyte and they're out there. Like they're not fucking off with the volume. They built towns. They're out in the grass over there in the UK, Pinewood, wherever the fuck they shot, Shinfield. So I mean, the number to me is not shocking. All right, it makes complete sense when you consider the scope of these Star Wars TV shows. I mean, we've heard Mandalorians. They could run upwards of $100 million to produce. I'm assuming that encompasses the pre-production budget, production, and post. And then Acolyte will probably be right around that. I mean, they're in the article. They also said Andor was more expensive than the Acolyte, but they cited COVID regulations and whatnot for that. So I guess it really doesn't surprise me. I guess I'm more like, why is this a news story today?
Well, because the studios want you to see like this. Look how much money we're spending on these shows.
You got it. I was putting it out there, but yeah, that's exactly what this is. I mean, it's almost like Bob Iger himself ran this fucking story or gave it to Forbes, because Forbes did say that Disney released the numbers. It's like, okay, why are they doing it now? I mean, Acolyte's a year or more away. Like, what's the point? But yeah, you got it. You hit the nail on the head. This is the FUD stuff, my friends. It's, oh, look at this. These fuckers, we gave them $49 million and they're still not working. These lazy ass, greedy pieces of shit.
I mean, and look, what it comes down to is like for pre-production costs, okay, so let's try to do the comparison between, like they did, between Rogue One and this show. Pre-production costs include script development, it includes your director, like your cast and crew, and it includes on-location filming and stuff like that. At least as far as I know. I mean, trust me, if there's somebody else who, like, if there's somebody who works in the industry that has much more knowledge, like, about it, like, please correct me. But like, this is what I'm finding. The cast of this show is like an ensemble cast, and it is a lot of recognizable names.
True.
Which is going to increase your pre-production cost because recognizable names demand a higher cost than non-recognizable names. If you compare that to Rogue One, you had like your primary cast members were Diego Luna, who was, I mean, you could argue that, like, I don't know how big he was at the time he was cast, and Felicity Jones. Those are your two primary stars. I'm not really familiar with Felicity's background and her previous work, and Diego was another one
she was definitely the big name. Diego, I think, barely had any credits in American entertainment at that point in time. Yeah,
gotcha. So there's your comparison there for like your stars and stuff. So I mean, like, if anything, it would probably be a very similar like casting budget if I had to take a guess. I mean, the only one that's really in there that's going to really potentially shoot your casting budget up for Rogue One was Forrest Whitaker, because Forrest Whitaker, Oscar award-winning actor, obviously. Not sure what his cost was.
He earned every dollar for that portrayal of Crazy Saul. That was one of the weirdest fucking things I ever saw. I was like, I like Andor Saul better than Rogue One Saul.
Than Rogue One. Yeah.
Saul's a little. Forrest had a little too much freedom in Rogue One, in my opinion.
Yeah, he really went crazy, literally, for his character in Rogue One. So, but yeah, script development. So like, versus like you have one script that you're writing for a movie versus multiple scripts that you're writing for a TV series. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. So maybe your script writing or script development cost goes up a little bit.
So I mean, it's just they're bigger productions, even though it's for a smaller screen. They are bigger productions.
Yeah, and I think that like that's something again that like is new for studios. Studios are used to being able to create television shows for super cheap. I mean, like, go look at fucking Modern Family, or go look at like any live action.
Was it 3 or 4 camera on a set scripted television?
Yeah, like stuff like that has super low production costs because you're not on location. You're working with a 2-3 camera setup, like you're talking about. Some of these are working with fucking 1 camera setups. Like, I think Friends was a 1 camera setup. That there was not more than 1 camera, maybe 2. You know, so like the production budget of these TV shows has gone up immensely because that is what like people have been looking for recently, especially after, like, I think the one that really kind of kicked shit into high gear was Game of Thrones. Like, Game of Thrones, when that came out, was like huge production budget.
Yeah,
but it was HBO. Right. It was truly like, it may not have been like what you could consider the first prestige television show, but like that's the one that sparked everybody else to be like, hey, what can we acquire? What can we make? What can we
start
do
doing some
to do
long
something?
form branded IP, existing IP
Yeah.
that has not been on a screen before. Yep, you got it.
Yeah. So like realistically, that business model for new television has only been around for 10 years? Like when did the first season
2010,
of Game of Thrones?
2010, I'll never forget.
So yeah, so about 13 years it's been around. So it's relatively new. And at the time, I mean, at the time that this shit was going on, this is when studios were making, like movies were fucking through the roof. You're at the height of the MCU. Like you just films were exploding. Like everything was making so much money at the box office. Like you would have films that are making 7, 8, 9 times their production budgets at the box office. So like studios are like, well, we got all this extra money from the movies that are hitting at the box office. Like, let's see if we can like really start to make these like prestige TV type of productions. And that's when this stuff comes around. And that's when your budgets for a TV show go from, your cast is making $50,000 per episode to now your cast is making potentially triple that. Your location budget, you now have a location budget because you're filming TV shows on location. You have budgets that, you have to have budgets for things that you didn't have before. So now it's like they were super happy to make them when, they're getting record box office numbers.
That's the other thing I wanted you to like. They make all these comparisons to the movies and TV, but I still don't think we have a formula for does a streaming TV show, how do we deem if it made money or not, right? We don't. Yeah. How do you do that? Because you can't, I guess, unless you got someone there that is only examining the data points of people that signed up, then watched a newly released streaming show. How can you truly judge how much a streaming series actually makes? Movies, it's easy. I mean, it took this much to make it, promote it, hype it. This is what the dummies paid us in ticket sales. You subtract the one from the other, boom, that's our profit. Streaming, I don't even know how you ever come up with a formula for that.
Yeah, I mean, I guarantee you, if these streaming services or like these big streamers that are owned by like big studios, they do have somebody that's doing that work. Yeah. If they don't, they're really bad at their job. Slightly
off topic, but not really. Did you see the viral clip of Warner Brothers CEO getting not hazed, but he was doing a graduation speech at a college. David Zaslav or whoever he is, he makes like fucking $150 million a year to be a dick face. He was at a pretty prestigious college, and apparently all the students, when he started talking, turned their back to him and just started chanting, "Pay your writers."
I mean,
pay your right. Good for these young motherfuckers. My generation, we've already missed the boat. I thought my generation might affect some change. No, we're just as shitty as our own parents. There's still a lot of fucked up thinking in what am I? Gen X, something like that.
Gen X.
But you know what? I don't even think we can count on the millennials. It's Gen Z may be our saviors, and I know that's probably making some of you vomit. But like people my age, they tolerate the likes of David Zaslav making this type of money and telling the creatives to go fuck themselves. So I like seeing that type of shit. Good for young people.
It's always the younger generation that is like that tries to.
I know, but
do
you now, Nick? Do you think Gen Z will ultimately, like the rest of us, they'll just get complacent and be like, "Yeah, fuck it. No, we can't fix it. We're fucked. We're all gonna die. Who cares?"
Every generation does, but it's also like, but then like that's the baton handoff is like when the generation when millennials are all in their 30s, their early 30s, mid 30s, like. The handoff goes to the next generation, and the same thing will happen for generation.
We have very incremental, small improvements, but not as big as they should be. All right. Anyways,
because at a certain point, it gets to like then you're starting like a majority of your generation starts to be like hypocritical.
Well, yeah. Once someone gets a high-paying job, they're like, "Yeah, fuck you, losers! I'm making that bang." So
yeah,
let's keep the machine going. It's paying me.
Yeah. So I mean, like, and that happens to everybody in every or not everybody, but a lot of people in every generation. It's like, okay, well, like now I'm in a C-suite, but like, so what choice do you make? Do you want to still like put your voice out there as somebody who wants to like fight for the little guy,
sad.
or do you want to keep your mouth? Like, that's what it comes down to.
It's so sad, but so true. I love it. I love it.
But yeah, I mean, like the production budget of this is why they're going to start cutting budgets for all of their shows, or they're going to start making less shows, is because production, like now they can feel the production costs, apparently, from what they're saying, that they can finally feel the production costs.
Sure. I got one for you from Comical Content Goblin. I think a new member of the stream here. Welcome there, CCG. They're asking, honestly, they should do theatrical releases for big TV shows that are on streaming. Do you ever see that getting done, or how would they do that?
I've seen some things that are similar, like for those of you who are fans of D&D and who are aware of the D&D space, Critical Role, which is the biggest streaming D&D show on the planet right now, they'll do.
We're number 2, by the way. Scoundrels of the New Republic. We right checked the charts. We're already number 2.
Yeah. But they do theatrical releases for some of their new content. Like whenever they do, like if they do like a big event or something like that, or like the first episode of a new season or a new campaign, they'll release that in theaters, and they have a deal with Cinemark theaters, and they have fucking huge releases. Yeah, it's like you could easily. You could do stuff like that.
You wonder why, the Paramounts of the world, the Disneys of the world haven't gone to the AMCs or the Regals, if they still exist, Cinemarks. It's like, hey, listen, after a year or so, you guys can have this. Or, hey, if you want it right now, it's going to cost you a premium, something like that. But
I think that they should do it to where it releases like the first day that it releases on Disney Plus, or like even like a day before it releases on Disney Plus, your first 2 episodes drop in theaters. Go see it. Like, yeah,
kind of like what they did with Andor, and they put it on regular TV after a while, right? They I think it was like the first 2 episodes. You would, or if they did like a full season, I guess for the nut jobs, you could do a binge, but you would almost have to do like a week event. You watch 2 episodes a day or something like that. I mean, I know there's some nuts out there that would be like, no, I'm going to fucking wear a diaper and sit through all 7 hours of Mandalorian season 3. You know what? Good for you. I might have done it in another lifetime or a few decades ago, but what sort of cadence would you see with this? Or do you think it would just be here's it all and good luck. You're here for 8 hours today.
Oh no. Like, I think that like you have to do it as like a demand generation tactic. Like if you release the first 2 episodes in theaters, that's roughly the time of a movie. Like it's about an hour and a half,
for sure,
2 hours long.
Clocked. I think it was like 90 minutes or something like that.
Yeah. So somewhere around there. So you only, this is what I would do if I was Disney, if I was the head of Disney marketing. I would release the first 2 episodes of particularly big shows like
Ahsoka
The Mandalorian
coming up, right?
season
Ahsoka.
4.
Let's just talk about that. I mean, that one's coming up.
I mean, you could do Ahsoka, but Ahsoka's just, it doesn't have the groundswell behind it, and it doesn't have the name recognition, and it doesn't have the, like, it's not going to be, it's not your flagship. I'll put it that way. Like, you're not going to make money
at this point. The only Star Wars
it.
flagship is probably Mando, and then the other Disney flagships would have been the Marvel TV shows.
Exactly. So that's like Mando season 4. This is what I'm doing. If I'm truly worried about streaming services like unsubscribes, people not coming back, stuff like that, I've released the first 2 episodes of Mando season 2 as in theaters, as many theaters will take them. Because one, that's ticket prices that you would never, like, you're not going to get.
So you're going to do like the carrot dangling, like, hey, here, we're going to tickle your tits, like, and then you got to go pay us the $8 a month.
You go subscribe.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah. So that's how I would do it, because you're getting money in the door from a theater that you usually wouldn't be getting, because usually these shows don't come out in theaters. But if you do a 2-episode release, boom, you get that. Plus, you're going to increase your potential subscriber reach, because people who see the first 2 episodes and aren't subscribed to Disney Plus may be like, hey, well, I'm going to go subscribe now so I can see the rest of the series. And that is a funnel for those of you who don't work in marketing, or for those of you who do work in marketing, you know what a funnel is. That is a funnel from
Nick wants to suck all our money out of our pockets right into his mouth.
your high intent users that are interested in seeing a Star Wars show in theaters. So you get them there, and then you bring them down your funnel into your streaming service, which has your recurring monthly subscription cost and has other access to content, Star Wars content that they may not have seen yet. So that's how I would do it. But what do I know?
I mean, it makes a ton of sense. I'm just sitting here kind of dreaming about it. I mean, imagine Mando seasons 4 coming out. Hey, first 2 episodes in theater. Can you, like, people like us? I mean, come on.
No brainer.
Yeah, I'd be like, all right, let's go. How many people can we get in this theater? Hey, my AMC rents out theaters. You guys want to just fucking get our own? Let's do it. You could turn it into an event. You know, it'd almost be like going to watch Star Wars movies at the theater. Does anyone else remember what that used to be like? It's been so long. I mean, yes. So let's do it. I think at this point, we just essentially created a consultation company. So I'm going to go ahead and trademark it right now. We're going to start our next venture. Fuck Star Wars Time Show. We're just going to go around and try to get these deals done. And that's how you and I are going to become the next David Zaslav and make $150 million for doing nothing.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like, it's a no-brainer. But I also think that, like, the people who work in all of the high-level C-suite, CMOs, you know, your chief marketing officer, VP of marketing president, whatever the fuck you call them, like, they've been in these positions in standard studios for so long, and like they never had, like, you don't have to think of new stuff. Like, you don't have to. You follow the tried and true marketing tactics for TV and movie that you've done for decades. But now it's like, why are you not thinking outside of the box? Like, why are you not trying to figure out different ways, especially now when just what we talked about, TV production budgets and TV show, like prestige TV show quality is to the level of films.
Oh, easily.
So it's not like you're putting out, you know, like, you're not putting out, you know, some random 30-minute, you know, sitcom that's single camera onto a big screen. Like, you're not doing that. You're putting out the first 2 episodes of a TV series that cost you almost $200 million to make. Like, it makes total sense to like take that, what is all, like, you're already developing it for a big screen feel anyway. So like, put it out on a big screen a day before it drops on Disney Plus, build hype, get people into the theaters, and then those people who are not subscribed will subscribe at probably a 70% rate after that showing. Like,
hey, like I said,
no way
let's
that they
go.
don't.
Let's get the charter written. B-Mad just volunteered. He's employee number 1. He'll be our sales guy for the street. You know, I obviously can't be front facing because of how I can act sometimes. So that would have to be you. I would just kind of hang out in the back and make sure everything is operating as planned. Okay, I would be the Palpatine. I'll be Palpatine. You be like, Vader, and then B-Mad can be like like Mayor Jade or something like that.
Yeah, but like, I think that one thing that they also have to think about is, if they really are trying to do a like crossover movie thing for the Mandoverse, one thing I already said,
get people used to seeing Mando in theaters, right?
Yeah, like, get them used to it, because if you say like, hey, you know, Mando crossover movie is going to be theatrical release only, just like they're going to, like what they're doing with their like Marvel stuff now is like, oh, we're going to do theatrical release only for Mando crossover event. Okay, so here's your problem there. You better make that very fucking clear, like super clear to all of the Disney Plus subscribers who have been longtime subscribers that are expecting
exactly,
it to come to TV.
like,
you better make it like just abundantly clear that you have to go to the theaters to see this. Also, for the people who are not Disney Plus watchers, they're going to think that like, oh shit, new Star Wars movie, so excited to see it. They're going to go and see it and be like, what did I miss? Like, why? Like, how am I not up to date on whatever is happening here in this movie? Because you have essentially 5 years of storytelling, or whatever it's going to be before it releases, 7 years of storytelling that they needed to be up on before they see this movie.
Right.
And if you're not exposing them to the content prior, and you're literally just relying on the fact that like, well, probably everybody's seen our Disney Plus TV shows, that's going to be an issue. Like you need to make sure that like you're exposing these different audiences to your content before that time comes. But
hey, real quick, sticking with the Mando movie, knowing what we know now, you know, knowing Bob returned and the movie was announced at Celebration, do you think the Mando movie is a result of Bob's cost-cutting initiatives? I mean, do you think ultimately they had more seasons planned out? Because that's how I remember all this being explained, is like, hey, all these shows, they're going to be TV shows, Rangers, Boba, Mando, blah, blah, blue. And then they will eventually, like the MCU, cross over into an event.
I don't think it has anything to do with Iger, because I doubt that would be the first thing that he would do, is like, hey, we're going to make this a movie. In fact, I think that like, if anything, he would have been like, we're not going to make this a movie and we're going to cut your TV production budgets. Because regardless of how you look at it, there is a far higher marketing cost for movies than there are for TV shows. Just straight up. It's
I was trying to, I think it was in the Forbes article, but they really went into how they figure out if a movie makes money. Because, you know, you and I were like, hey, Solo, it did this at box office, this is what it costs, so it did make some money. But in the end, they have like this formula. It's like, what is it, a 1.22 SFS, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's so fucking quasi-accounting. It's hard to figure out how they determined if a movie was profitable or not. Because they're like, it was like, what was it? Rogue One made $1 billion internationally, but it only ended up making $300 million. And I'm like, how is that even real? But that's what they say based on this magic formula.
Because you have, I mean, there's so much you have to think about, especially in international, that you don't like for international movie releases, that you don't have to worry about for international streaming releases, because you own the content distribution system for streaming. Yep. Like you don't have to worry about marketing it or something like that. Content distribution internationally usually is licensed through a third party company.
Well, you're also not like splitting sales with the theater either. Like you lose some of your profit to the theater for screening a movie.
Yeah. So like you have to take in like international distribution rights. You have to take in all of this other shit for movie releases that you don't. So if anything, I would imagine Bob would have been like, this ain't a movie, motherfuckers, because I ain't paying the marketing and the international distribution costs for this shit. Yeah, so I imagine that it's going to be more expensive. I think that the reason that they're doing it as a theatrical release is because that to me is John and Dave being like, look, we have done so much work.
We can get this done. We can actually do this. We've got characters. We've got a story. It's no bullshit. It's not just on a storyboard, on a whiteboard in a conference room. We actually got this shit.
Yeah. And like, but also for them, they're like, look, we've like, it's unquestionable that Star Wars was a huge reason that Disney Plus's subscriber count rocketed the way that it did. Like, you can go back and look at early adoption rates for Disney Plus, and what was driving it was Mandoween.
Of course.
Unquestionably.
That's really the only thing that released when it came out in 2019. Yeah. That was it. That was its flagship show. Like, hey, this is why you want Disney Plus.
Exactly. So what John and Dave are doing is like, look, we have slogged our asses off here, like building this entire universe for a TV for a streaming service. And now, like, we want to, like, and they feel like that they've earned the silver screen with this crossover event.
Yeah, it's almost like a reward for Filoni. It's to give him a movie now. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, boy, we started you in animation, you graduated to TV. Now we're going to knight you in full. You get to make a movie.
Yeah, I mean, that's what their thought process is, and also, like, you know. But again, like, as somebody who's like looking at this from a financial aspect, this could be a bomb in the theaters if they don't handle
all right.
their like. the content.
It is a
releases
movie.
coming
It's
out,
a Star Wars movie, so it may not be real anyways.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? But yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see how this goes. I mean, I'm still excited for it to come out, and I think that it has the potential to be one of the best Star Wars movies out there if you have the prerequisite knowledge of the content.
Yeah, you have to
that's the big.
Before it airs in theaters, there'll be like a 5-minute story so far catch up like they do on TV shows in between episodes. Well, anyways, back to the Acolyte, which is. I'm legitimately pumped for this show. I know it's got a lot of negativity around it, at least out there in the Star Wars fan media, but at least Matt from the SWTS I am eager to see it. And we're not quite done talking about it. And this one I think is complete internet bullshit. But in addition to the hefty price tag news, Forbes also just kind of threw in this rumor that popped up last week that I kind of passed on because it came from Giant Freaking Robot, and their track record recently isn't the best. I feel like they do just kind of throw shit out there like we should try every once in a while because who gives a fuck anymore? It's not like we have a following anymore. So it's like we could do whatever we want again. I kind of like it. I think on Instagram, I'm just going to start taking pictures of my brown eye and saying it's like different Star Wars planets and see what happens. But anyways, Forbes ran with it. So I was like, all right, we'll talk about it. But in the article about Acolyte's pre-production costs, they also just casually throw out there like, oh yeah, there's a rumor last week that Keanu Reeves is now attached to the Acolyte in a cameo capacity, Nick. And, you know, obviously everyone makes the connection. Well, Carrie Ann's in it. They're reuniting the Matrix team. And I'm like, listen, I know fans have been trying to cast Mr. Reeves in the Star Wars for a long time. Nick, I don't know if you've seen it. A lot of us or a lot of them that do the fan casting wanted to be Darth Revan.
Right.
There was another like old Jedi. It starts with a V or something, possibly. So I don't know. Like I said, it is coming from Giant Freaking Robot. Forbes ran with it, so I guess they're like, all right, fine, GFR.
I would say, did anybody check this, or are they just saying that like there's something out there?
No, they didn't even cite GFR. Like Forbes just like, oh yeah, the rumor last week Keanu Reeves is gonna have a cameo in the Acolyte. So I'm like, okay, let's just play with this if this is even real. Yeah. I kind of look at it as a waste if we're going to bring in Keanu as a cameo first and foremost. And two, it just seems way too convenient in Hollywood to have him and Carrie Ann reunite in a Star Wars project.
Yeah, I mean, definitely think that it's a little... Like, it's a little odd that he would come in a cameo fashion in a TV show that's like... I mean, it's going to be good for sure, but like,
it makes sense. Like him and Acolyte would work, kind of. You know, I mean, the setting, and he's got the look. I used the fucking 47 Ronin just to kind of, you know, line things up what he may look like. But look, I would love to have Keanu Reeves in Star Wars. I would love him to play Darth Revan. Too. I don't want him to have just some shitbag cameo in the Acolyte.
Yeah, I like if they did it to where it's like almost a tease.
Oh yeah, okay. If we're gonna
if we're
gonna build upon this, like, is he Plagueis? Is it? I wouldn't even like Revan in the Acolyte, even as like a spirit or a vision, doesn't make sense because the dude redeemed himself technically, at least through Legends content. So to me, if this is true and Reeves has a cameo, I think he's like a fucking villager schmo. Or like a shop schmo.
I would be very surprised if this actually happened.
Yeah,
because it just doesn't make any sense.
It seems too fan cast, like Bat's saying in here. Nova's saying, what if it's like an Andy Serkis as Kino type of role? Sure, but that wouldn't be a cameo. I mean, that's more of a guest star where, you know, you come back. I mean, a cameo is truly like, hey, how you doing? Carrie Ann's character's name. It's a swell day out today, and that's it. Like you're done.
Here's the only way that I would like a cameo from Keanu Reeves is if it was if they're like going through and these are Sith, and Sith are always interested in like Sith lore, finding Sith history, stuff like that. Like if he was in
there you go. So
in a Sith hologram,
I just pulled up comical content goblin. He had you. He was reading your mind. Darth Revan holocron.
Yeah, like it would have to be something like that, either like in a full holocron form or in like some sort of like old data bank. They find something from Revan when he was in his Jedi tase. Something
that
like
would be cool.
Like,
that would be a nice little tip of the hat. All right, okay, you talked me down. I could get behind that, but I still think this is bogus as fuck. I like what Bad is saying here. Keanu as Bendu or Riot. If you're not familiar with Bendu, he's the big like almost like a tree moose looking motherfucker in Star Wars Rebels that teaches Kanan a few things about the Force. Bendu is
just
a fun
like the
character.
voice of Bendu.
Yeah.
He was.
Well, I mean, Keanu, the way he delivers lines would work for the Bendu. Like he can definitely do that drawn out, almost monotone delivery.
Like very wise.
Yeah. But I like what you're saying and kind of what comical content goblin. That would be that's how you would do a Keanu Reeves cameo in Star Wars. I agree with that. Anything else would seem like a waste unless he was like a real character. But even there, it's like, I know some people have hard-ons against famous actors coming to Star Wars. I mean, that's why they're so bent about Jack Black and Lizzo and whatnot. But in the end, if the story is written correctly and the actor is doing their job, it shouldn't fucking matter. You should be able to like get beyond the fact that it's John Wick. I mean, it's not that hard. All right. Keanu is Darth Tenebrous. You would know more about that one, right?
Tenebus.
Ten buses. What is it? How do you say it?
I don't know if it's Tenebrous is what he's going for. Comical content goblin, and he's another like ancient Sith from the Star Wars: The Old Republic game.
Right, and Plagueis would be a waste because from what we know, he's an alien, right? I mean, he's like got a big ass dome, right? He's either Nemoidian or some crazy fucking alien guy.
Tenebrous. Well, I guess like it depends on, or is that a different? There's so many different fucking people in this. Tenebrous was Plagueis' master, but there was another Tenebrous that was in fucking the Star Wars: The Old Republic game. So this, I think what he's talking about is like he would be Plagueis' master.
Or you could do the old kind of how Daniel Craig got his cameo and just cramp Keanu into like some trooper outfit, even though there's no stormtroopers when the Acolyte's going around, but there's probably some masked warriors. Like I said, just dress him up like a samurai, give him a fucking face mask, he's ready to go. But if this is real, Nick's way is the only way it should happen. That's it, plain and simple.
Like that's a true cameo too. Yeah. It's like, oh look, he's on the screen for whatever.
That would be perfect. Like I think that, I mean, that would give fans boners. It would, we would be happy. I like it, but
and then hopefully it would be a setup for potentially James Mangold's movie or potentially like some other Old Republic
I don't know, man.
type of content.
That makes too much sense. Like when you and I start making too much sense on a narrative level for future Star Wars, it usually means there's no chance in fucking hell for whatever reason. Yeah. And listen, like, hey, we didn't put in the time to become writers and whatnot. But I do feel like sometimes fans cook up some pretty good shit as long as they know their history and know where things need to go. And I do feel like we should be compensated for it, if not hired or at least sign on the Dave's team as consultants. I don't know, something. Because we're good at this shit. So please hook us up. Go ahead, send out our names, addresses, phone numbers. Do what you got to do. We're here. No more talk about socialism and communism. After I saw Oppenheimer, I'm like, Jesus, in this country, you probably, in this day and time, you probably can't say that stuff too many times without getting flagged by AI. So no more communist talk on the Star Wars Time show. Oh, shit. All right, moving on to Outlaws. Like I said earlier, there's a really nice BTS video they put out over SDCC weekend. Go ahead and check that out. We're not going to recap the video. what we are going to talk about a little bit are some of the bullet points from the interview that was posted to StarWars.com with Julian Geraghty. That's the creative director of the game. We talked about him last week. It's a pretty good read. I like Dan over at StarWars.com. He's like one of their main writers. He's been doing it his whole life. He's a lucky son of a bitch. So yeah, I am jealous and kind of hate him, but I like his work. It was a good interview. But they kind of discussed the fact that I don't think it's sunk into a lot of us, especially if you're not a gamer. But, Star Wars Outlaws is the first ever. If you think about how long Star Wars has been around and how long modern gaming's been around, the first ever open world Star Wars game. That is something, if you're a gamer, you should be fucking super excited about, especially if you love Star Wars. And we're not going to read this interview to you. I'm going to kind of highlight it and look for Nick's point of view. But Star Wars was asking Julian, like, hey, well, why does Star Wars work so well in an open world? And, why did you guys as massive and Ubisoft decide to tackle this undertaking? It's never been done before. And Julian just kind of went on to say, like, listen, man, I mean, the history of Star Wars and the dedication of its fan bases, it's just ripe to be an open world game for fans for the first time to truly embrace being in the Star Wars galaxy. Like living out your own adventure. Sure, you're going to have a few guardrails in terms of like the overarching mission, like the main objectives. But what we've been reading, what we've been talking about on the show, Nick, it does seem like you are going to be able to kind of craft your own adventure throughout Star Wars Outlaws, throughout the main narrative, throughout the different planets you go to and the different characters you meet. And it's sunk into me a little bit, but just thinking about the possibility this game is going to offer us next year is pretty fucking exciting. It's brand new. I mean, we've never had this experience before.
Yeah. I think that like for any like video game developer, I think it's easy to see how Star Wars could be done in an open world fashion. I don't think that that's a hard thing to imagine. I mean, there's so much content out there just in terms of like locations that you can go to and variety and landscape and stuff like that. Like it's just like, it's really ripe with that sense of adventure because of how open the galaxy is. Like you've just in the movies alone, you've explored like different, like so many different planets, so many different environments, so many different species, so many different types of aliens and types of humanoids and stuff like that, that like you could like sit there for days imagining like the different ways you could put characters into settings and stuff like that. So, I mean, it was, and like, I guess like that's what makes it so odd that it hasn't been done up to this point.
Wild. Well, I mean, you got to chalk it up to obviously, when George still owned things, it was a lot of Lucas Arts control, weren't really letting the license fly out that often. And then he sold, and we know what happened. EA more or less just fucking squatted it. Like they squatted the fucking license. So sadly, Nick, it sounds like it was more business than anything that has prevented an open world Star Wars game. So we're here almost. I think spring 24. But this is a line I loved, and I know Nick will too, because we've talked about this when we were playing Ghost. Other games, Diablo is one that excels at this, but Julian goes on to say, like, so you may have some objectives, but you're going to be distracted by your curiosity as a player. Those are my favorite types of games right now. And as long as, like we said a few weeks ago, as long as the map isn't a pile of shit or they steal Jedi Survivor's map system, I'll be good. Like, just use what you did in Assassin's Creed. It's okay. Just put the fucking little objective markers everywhere. Allow me to plot my route so I can follow a fucking line on the map, and we're going to be good to go. Because if they fuck that up, that is going to drive me nuts. I hate to say this because I respect the franchise. I love it, but it's one of the reasons I never finish a fucking game in it. Zelda. Zelda is one of the worst fucking open world games at kind of enticing you to explore. Like, it doesn't even help you on the main objectives. And someone like me, where I'm at now, and I don't have a bunch of time, I don't want to get on the internet and watch fucking videos on how to just get past the first mission or find the first mission. It sucks. So hopefully they're taking from, obviously their work with the Division, so on and so forth, and we're gonna have very easy to find distractions.
Yeah, hopefully so. I mean, that's like the type of game that's super dangerous for me. Also, is like I know that those type of games I end up getting like so involved with the side mission stuff that I just
Well, you finished Ghost, didn't you? Did you beat Ghost or no?
No.
Oh, you son of a bitch!
No.
You can't do it. You have a problem.
I fucking love that game, but I just like I got.
And you were just saying you didn't do it the Hogwarts. Like Nick he might be a bigger fanboy of Harry Potter than Star Wars, and you didn't finish that either.
No, like I just started playing. Like I started playing it again because I was like, oh yeah, like I never actually finished this game, even though I played it for probably 40 plus hours. Like I just never I did so much of the side stuff that like I get like pulled into it, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put it down for a while, and I get something else comes up. Yeah, like it's. And
I don't know
it'll
if this
happen
is
with this game too.
My gaming media days or what, but I still can't start a new game until I have finished the other one. It's a sickness. It's the programming I have where you can't have fun until your work is done. And honestly, I think that's a good ethic to have. I mean, I kind of like that. It keeps me somewhat focused, even though I suffer from the ADD fairly hardcore. But yeah, I just hope that it's easy to find these distractions. Otherwise, it'll just piss me off, and I'll end up not hating it, but not loving it as much as I want to. Nick, you were kind of hitting on this earlier. Star Wars asked Julian about, like, listen, Star Wars always has had such a sense of history to it. And I think we can all agree to that. I mean, the first time you watch Star Wars, it opens with a long time ago. And when I was a little kid, I really thought, like, okay, yeah, this was real. Yeah, history. We're learning about this shit. And Julian goes on to say, he's like, listen, we were talking about this the other day, but in A New Hope, the Cantina in Mos Eisley, they're going to fully recreate in the game. And it's because of his passion as a Star Wars fan. He's like, listen, when I first saw that, as a kid, a young adult, I wanted to go, look in that corner or go talk to that alien or look under that table or see what was behind the bar. And that's what this game is going to allow us to do finally. And they're talking like Tatooine. I know Nick's not going to love this, but Tatooine is like their mega fleshed out map planet. He's like, you're going to be able to go to all these locations you've heard about, and you're going to be able to go into this store, go into the cantina, go up on stage where Figure and Dan was playing with the modal nodes. And to some people, it's like, oh, who gives a shit? But to people like us or me, I love the lore, the history right there, like Star Wars is saying. That shit gets me excited. And yes, I could see myself losing time. This would be a game that even in my old age, I probably would go look for collectibles if they were like little things to read about Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like that I like it. I dig it. I'm all about it. Yeah,
I think that, obviously Tatooine has become the center of the Star Wars galaxy, even though it's in the Outer Rim. Like
it really has. It's crazy.
Like it it's where the first movie started and it's where the last movie ended. So like it's first movie I'm talking about, like first release.
Hey, it's where the Skywalkers were from, right? Anakin's slave days started there. Luke got marooned there. That's kind of their deal, but it is getting a little overused. But don't worry, we got more of this. They created a new planet, so that's pretty awesome. Plus, we're going to see a few others that popped up in the films. So the interview kind of goes into, hey, why did you guys decide to go for a scoundrel? I'm sure there's a bunch of you like, scoundrel, and she's a girl. But if you read what Julian says, it makes complete sense. Because if we would have picked Jedi, Sith, you're kind of locked into a gameplay mechanic that can't vary too much. You're already all powerful. You can do all sorts of crazy shit. So the reason they want scoundrel here is, I'm just going to read part of this. He's like, they were asking themselves as a team, how could we have a lot of different experiences within this open world? Driving, flying, smuggling, shooting, sneaking, all these experiences combined into one particular character and character archetype. And essentially through collaboration with Lucasfilm, they're like, that's the scoundrel. That a scoundrel can do all of that type of shit. So that makes sense to me, and I kind of dig that. It's like we've played the Force users. We just did. With Cal. So yeah, let's get behind the yoke of a new archetype, and so I'm all about it, and it does make sense.
And I think that like another thing with this is like scoundrels give you the opportunity to have a moral compass based off of your own decision tree. Yeah. So like with bounty hunting, or like if you're a bounty hunter, like you have a pretty loose moral compass to start with because you're killing people or capturing people for money. And like that is a very kind of like bounty hunters are a little bit too linear because it's like, here's your mark, go get your mark, come back, get your next mark. Like it doesn't really work. Like in the time period that we're talking about, you really can't do Jedi Sith because there's not any. And like realistically, like within the time period that we're talking about, which is like in between episodes 5 and 6, I believe is when this is taking place. Like you are very limited into what you're either a rebel, you're an Imperial, you're a bounty hunter.
Criminal syndicate, like adjacent.
Yeah, criminal syndicate, and like that's really kind of your like really it. But like the scoundrel, like even in like for example, like in our game, in our D&D game, like we're like the title of the series is called Scoundrels of the New Republic, and like 2 of our primary characters are like they're like smuggler scoundrel type.
I think Chief Matlu has kind of crossed over into Psycho too. Like he's a new archetype in Star Wars, one you probably haven't seen before.
But it's like. But what that does is it makes storytelling easier because you don't have to have reasons to go anywhere. Right. Like if I'm working on this game and like all of a sudden I decide that like our game's about a fucking Imperial, like our main character is an Imperial, it truly like you have to write story reasons for people to go somewhere. Like why is this Imperial, like whatever, like Imperial scout officer going to this planet? Like what's the purpose of them going there? And then you have to like come up with reasons for it. With scoundrels, or there is like the reason is next job. Where's the next job, baby?
Credits, motherfucker. Like, credits. Reputation and credits.
Like here's the story of how I get the characters in Scoundrels of the New Republic to a new planet. You got a job there. Like that's it. Like that's all it takes. Or you have a lead on a job there. That's all it takes. But if you like put yourself in a bucket to I'm playing a rebel officer, you have a very, very limited number of things that you can do within the rebel officer scope that can take you to different places. But if you're a scoundrel, if you're a smuggler like Han Solo, you're like, I got a beat on a job and it's in Felucia, then that's where I'm going. See ya. You don't have to answer to anybody. Like you go where you want to go.
Great points.
Makes total sense for a game like this.
Yeah. So Kay Vess is going to be our scoundrel, and we won't spend much time here because we've talked about it in the past. But she's a rookie. All right. So she's trying to make a name for herself, which means she's probably going to do something stupid, which gets her mixed up in a wider galactic conundrum, if you will. She's going to be joined by Nyx, who's the little alien thing we talked about last week. It was essentially going to serve as a BD1. So Nyx will be an extension of Kay's gameplay. You will be kind of sending Nyx to do shit as you're controlling Kay, just like you did with BD1. But we did get a little bit, a nice little tease I like for ND5, which is that the kind of the repurposed commando droid you've seen wearing a trench coat nonetheless. And Julian kind of talked about ND5 and gave us a little more insights about the character. So it is a character that players are going to meet later in the game, okay? And ND5 is going to join you as kind of a minder, a bodyguard type of character, but he is an observer. And all Julian teases us with is we can't wait for players to learn more about him. So I'm not gonna lie, he was definitely the most interesting character when they first announced Outlaws. I got nothing against female protagonists, but Kay looked pretty plain Jane, blue jacket, short hair, something in a hair in a bun. But when you see a battle droid, a commando droid wearing a trench coat, it almost looks like it's got a lightsaber slash across its chest. If you're on the live stream here. It may have a story, and why is it observing Kay? Why was it assigned as a reminder? So I can only assume that however she fucks up and kind of takes on something above her skill set, that maybe that person sticks ND5 with them. But the creative director is teasing that he's excited for us to learn more about this character, which usually means good things narratively.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's always interesting when that was kind of the coolest part of Rogue One was K2, like this old Imperial security droid, and like you're figuring out like, well, what is he doing here? Like, how is he involved with all this? And then like his ultimate sacrifice at the end of the movie was probably the most emotional part of that whole film.
Easy.
And it's like, when you can do stuff like that, when you can take what would usually just be like a cannon fodder type of enemy or something that like kind of hangs around in the background or serves a very specific purpose, and like give it this new history to it, and like make it have this like build an attachment to it through your player base. I think that is like a special type of thing. And I mean, like, even just like this one question is like, why is he wearing a coat? Is there a reason why he's wearing a coat? And he's like, yeah, there's a reason. There's a reason, and you'll find out the reason in the game.
Like that.
Like, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Because
says
like,
he has a complicated past, and Julian believes that ND5 is going to become a huge fan favorite.
Yeah, like just think about it. Like, what reason would a droid have to wear a coat? Like, droids aren't self-conscious to the point to where they're like, well, I don't want to show my shell.
My bare ass is hanging out. My nuts, literally, my nuts are exposed. Okay, so ND5. I mean, obviously, I was intrigued just based on his look and the concept art and some of the promo, but now even more so thanks to Mr. Grady here. All right, so it's been established we're going to see Jabba the Hutt in the game. But Julian went on to explain, like, listen, we're going to have some new underlords, overlords. In fact, one of the ones you saw on Toshara, which is a new planet they got to create for the game. That was the one featured in the trailer. But they go on to explain, kind of like we talked last week, how the rep system with these overlords, these crime lords, is going to be key. To where if you're in good with a Jabba the Hutt, life's going to be great. In that system, he's going to be giving you jobs, hooking you up, so on and so forth. Now, if you're on the wrong side of these crime lords, they're going to make your life miserable. They're going to be sending the seedier sides of the criminal underworld after you, like Nick talked about, the bounty hunters. So you're going to have to choose like how you work with these crime lords, and you're going to meet some new ones, and it sounds like you're definitely going to meet some existing ones. I don't know if you're going to get any of the Pikes we saw in Book of Boba Fett. Maybe you'll get some of them because they would still be alive by then. I don't know if Zizor could show up. Comical content Goblin Black Chrysanthemum. You never know. He could make an appearance. Yeah, I mean, and that's the other thing. And I didn't really put it in here because we talked about it, but that's one of the benefits of this game setting. It's in between Empire and Jedi, so all those famous bounty hunters are still around. They're still kicking. They're still doing their thing at peak. If you've been reading the comics or following my recaps of the comics on YouTube.com/Star Wars Time Show, then you know that Kiera and Crimson Dawn really tried to fuck the Empire with their hidden Empire plot. You know that Sidious and Vader, they're having issues with the Force. So is Luke right now because of what happened with Hidden Empire and this Fermata cage going off and some ancient Sith energy fucking up their Force mojo. So all this is going on, Nick, which makes it ripe for the syndicates to kind of be doing whatever they want. All right, the Empire, their leadership and their wizard powers are fucked up. The rebels took a pretty major defeat in Empire, so they're trying to get their shit back together. They've had to get fuel from no space. Like I said, just go read our recaps for all that shit. So it truly is a fantastic time in the OT for this to take place for fans of that era. Because as they're saying in the live stream chat, as we're saying here, the potential to get cameos of the big faces it's nearly unlimited.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like one thing that I really like about this is that like this is at least the first spot in the game that we're aware of right now that like your decisions are really going to affect how your particular game plays out, like how your
and
playthrough
apparently we're
goes.
getting multiple endings. Did you see that at all? I thought I saw that somewhere.
I did see something about that. Yeah. So I mean, because it's interesting. I mean, because there's different because of what I said earlier, like. Scoundrels have no moral compass other than what they decide to do and the repercussions that come from it. So like if you're a Jedi, it would be fucking weird for you to just be like all chummy with the crime syndicates. Like it would not make a ton of sense. But as a scoundrel, like totally cool if you're working with the crime syndicates and you want to be on their good side so they don't fuck with your other business. But it also makes sense if you're like, hey, I'm not like, you know, like I got my own thing. I'm doing my own thing. I don't want to mess with the crime syndicates. I don't want to get in too deep with these people because I know their reputation and stuff like that. So it allows you to say like, you know, to choose how you want to interact with these things. And then your game, like they were saying, like your game will play differently based off of how your reputation with these factions are. Or if you just choose to say like, I'm not going to be like chummy with the, you know, with the crime syndicates. I'm not going to be like somebody who's just doing jobs for the Hutt clan or something like that. Like I'm going to take a different.
Yeah, I mean, Nick, you would have to think
character.
As a scoundrel, there may even be opportunities to work for the Empire or the Rebellion, right? Not just the crime lords. You would hope so.
Yeah, I mean, especially at this time where like resource gathering is super important for both sides. I mean, on the Rebellion side, you just lost Hoth Base. Like Echo Base is gone from the beginning of ESB. Han Solo's captured. You've had like a pretty bad defeat, but then also on the side of the Empire, you're actively building Death Star 2. Like you are in dire need of a workforce. You're in dire need of materials and everything else. So like,
yeah, you don't have Cassian to make fucking Death Star arrays anymore either. So
yeah,
or Kino.
So
maybe.
like both sides are like in a resource scramble. So I do hope that they like incorporate some of that into the storytelling as well. It's like, hey, who do you want to help? Like, do you want to go run a job for the Empire where you're getting them materials that they need for whatever, for the Death Star build? Or do you want to, help out the Rebellion, help them, like build some new ships or something like that? I think there's a lot of opportunities.
Do you think, Nick, do you think would they bring in a Luke, a Leia as a digital character? Maybe, obviously NPC, they might give you a mission or maybe over a hologram or a news story. Like, how direct do you think they get with the Skywalker saga big names? If at all.
I mean, I hope that they don't.
If at all.
Yeah, I mean, I hope they don't shy away from it.
Yeah,
like, I hope that if it makes sense in the story,
it has to, man, because
of
the setting. Like, they're very active right now. Like, especially if the comics are canon, and I've read a lot of shit that Luke, Leia, Lando, and Chewie have been getting into since the end of Empire Strikes Back. And they would, like Nick said, it's no fucking joke. Like the Rebel Alliance in between Empire and Jedi was about bankrupt in terms of resources for their fleet. They literally had to go to no space to find this convoy that got lost in the High Republic era to bring back a shit ton of, like, I think it might have been coaxium, just so they could fuel the fleet, which was nearly decimated again with the Battle of Hoth and that fallout and some of the comic excursions that have happened. So yeah, you're spot on. It does. Yeah, I like that, like what comical content's saying, like wanted posters for Luke. Yeah, even little shit like that I would appreciate. But I'm with Nick. I don't think you can just go like, no, we're not touching anything the Skywalker saga, let's be real. I mean, it is the fucking T. It's where it started. Like that's them. That's their shit. That's their era. They are the big names, the big faces. They are the ones driving everything in the galaxy, be it their dad or the kids. And that counts for, other big name rebels, other big name Imperials as well.
Yeah.
So it sounds like, Nick, we should get your run of the mill Star Wars crime syndicates. I would hope they at least address what's happening with Crimson Dawn right now, because this is literally when they would have staged the auction to try to sell Han Solo and Carbonite so she could start her whole hidden empire plan. Black Suns, Pikes, obviously the Hutts. What else? What do you know? Where are some of the named syndicates? I think I hit the big ones, really, like Crimson Dawn, the Pikes,
Crimson,
the Hutts, Black Sun.
Pikes, Black Sun. Yeah, that's about it, right? I mean, at that time period, I think so. I mean, the Shadow Collective has already fallen apart by that time.
Yeah, Maul's dead, so Kira's in charge of
I think
CD.
that is. Yeah, so I think that's.
I mean, honestly, Nick, CD would almost have been. It was like a resurgent at this point in time, because, like you said, they're all like, "Oh, they haven't been around doing anything for a while," and then Kira shows up and holds this big auction. Vader goes to it. The Rebels go to it. I mean, other bounty hunters go to it. Boba Fett. It was pretty wild. So I do hope they address that, because Crimson Dawn was definitely operating much differently than the other criminal syndicates at this point in time. In fact, she was trying to get them all against each other so she could focus more on the Sith. Like that was her main goal when it all came down to it. Kira knew Sidious and Vader, they were the problem, not necessarily the Empire. But going on with this interview, Nick, we're going to get a new syndicate. They're called the Ashiga Clan. And apparently, Julian and his team, massive Ubisoft, they created this clan with Lucasfilm Games, that is. And they're going to be on Kijimi, so that's the, what's her name, planet from The Rise of Skywalker. It gets blown up, essentially. That one.
Yeah. It was Carrie Russell's
character. Yeah, that one. Zori Bliss. There you go. Zori. The one that Poe wanted to fuck nonstop. He kept making innuendos at the end. Like he was basically... The only thing Oscar Isaac didn't do at the end of Rise of Skywalker when they kind of glance at each other is literally just start thrusting his hips or taking his hand and doing the old in-out motion. Like, you want... Anyways,
he was definitely.
Oh yeah. You could tell Poe wanted to get back into that Bliss action here, but we are going to get a new syndicate, and I kind of like why they created a new one for Kijimi, and what he's saying, and I'm going to try to summarize it. Essentially, they wanted to create a faction that was kind of designed around a hierarchical society that looks at. Kind of does its ranking, its caste system based on honor, tradition, history. I mean, Nick, it's samurai, right? Essentially, a Shiga clan. I mean, it's as close as you get to like samurais, but apparently their visuals are inspired by insects, and they're gonna give players a whole different gameplay challenge that the other syndicates may not offer. So it's almost like they created this clan specifically to kind of match the planet, but to also give players a new type of gameplay experience. And it sounds like every clan may require, or not clan, syndicate may require players to kind of approach the gameplay a bit differently. And I kind of dig that idea.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's really cool. I like that they're like taking a different approach with the syndicate. I mean, I guess it's the clan syndicate aspect of it, because usually crime syndicates are very like, one, they're not super organized, and two, it's literally just like a bunch of people going out there stealing stuff or doing whatever crime that they're doing. This seems like it's going to be much more interesting. The way that they describe them almost reminds me of Killix. I don't know like how many people are even familiar with Killix from Star Wars, because I'm not 100% sure if they have been formally reintroduced into canon or not. Killix were insectoid creatures that were hive-minded, and were like primarily functioning on Alderaan, but they did kind of have that type of structure that you just mentioned. Like they were very based around like tradition and honor and history. The only thing was it was a hive mind. So like, for example, like Jaina Solo in the expanded universe, obviously not a real character anymore. Jaina Solo and one of her companions at that time like spent a ton of time with the Killik tribe, with like Killik tribes on Alderaan, and they actually formed a hive mind bond between the two of them and with the rest of the Killiks. So I'm interested to see if this is if that's an aspect of the Ashiga, or if it's not the same type of thing. But it is a very similar description to what I know of as Killiks.
Yeah, so we're gonna get like something new, which is nice. I mean, this game isn't just gonna all be familiar, and I dig that, even though it's set in a very, very familiar, tried and true era of Star Wars. Back to the planets, Nick. He's only given up 3. Kijimi, Tashara is the new one, and then he really goes in on Tatooine again, and he's like, we checked out the DK visual guides. We really wanted to make or recreate the most important parts of this planet for players to really dive into and explore.
The part that has all the sand on it, or is the part that has the sand and then the mountains on it?
I mean, it sounds like you might be able to roll by the Dune Sea, see how far the moisture farms are away from a Mos Eisley. Maybe Beggar's Canyon's in there. You never know. Maybe you'll see a Womp Rat every once in a while, or a T-16 Skyhopper flying around. But I'm telling you, man, this guy has got a hard-on for Tatooine. So I just everyone, let's just pray for Nick, okay? Let's just hope we don't spend too much time there. But it so far they've only listed 3 planets, and I hope that's not the scope.
I hope that's just scratching the surface.
Yes.
And I'm glad that they are making new planets too, because
we
as
can't
much
get too
as there
upset
is
about
out
Tatooine.
there,
It's like, how about this? If you include Tatooine, you have to create a new planet. That seems to be the formula to balance it out.
It's like you are functioning in an entire galaxy. Like you have, like use the galaxy. That's the thing that I've always been frustrated about with Star Wars, is it's like you're on this whole fucking planet, like you're in a galaxy far, far away, and you only use 3 planets. Like, fucking show us some more stuff.
Well, you can blame streaming for that. It's Tatooine is very easy to recreate in the real world or the digital world. So
it is very
here
true.
We are.
Very true.
And then the article just kind of wraps, focusing on Tashara, the new planet, and Julian kind of explains some of the inspiration behind it. It sounds like it's going to have a big urban structure, like a big city, and they've kind of based its soundscape on Tanzania. All right, so the biome is based on the African savanna, but with huge amberine slabs of crystal, and amberine is beautiful in the game because it catches and reflects light. So Tashara, its main city, it's going to be called Mirogana, and it's carved into a mountain right in the middle of town, or the planet. So it should look pretty cool. It should look unique, if anything else. We got that new planet in Kenobi, even though it just kind of looked like level 1313 on Coruscant. But hey, it was new, right? It was new. But I do like that. If the formula is, if you're using Tatooine, then you must create a new planet. Like that's going to be the loop for Star Wars narratives moving forward.
Yeah, I hope just make that a fucking rule, because I like that approach. But I mean, this does sound cool. I mean, I think that we've gotten to a point in like video game fidelity that you can do something like really cool with this amberine crystal and like light reflections and refractions and stuff like that. So I think that like on a good system or on a new console, it's going to look really awesome, hopefully. And yeah, just like come up with some cool shit, man. If you're gonna do like a Savannah type of vibe to it, I hope that the creatures that they put on it are really cool too. Like, come up with some cool creature design.
Some new aliens. We always take new aliens. That's for sure. Remember, that's why a lot of people hated Andor. Not a lot of aliens. No aliens and bricks. Bricks! No! There's fucking rivets in Star Wars. I'm gonna slit my throat. Ugh.
What do you mean that
shit,
there are screws that they use in Star Wars?
All right. Hey, we had a few new screens from the game. Make sure to check them out on StarWarsTime.net. But Nick, while I'm looking at this, I do have to say that the last image in the post of Kay's ship, I'm not gonna lie, it's a horrible ship design. I typically always think that the Star Wars concept artists kick ass at making vehicles, and Kay's ship, dude, it looks like a fucking 8-track essentially, right? It's a fucking square ship. It's like a rectangle.
Yeah, it's very rectangular with not a lot of extras on there. I wonder, and like again, this is something that like may come into play or not, like. I wonder if there's going to be like ship modifications that you can do. Like you can add stuff to it. I hope I can just
trade it in and get a better one. Like I want to go to Corellia and actually get a good freighter for a scoundrel.
Ship. Yeah. I think that would be cool. I think that like with a game like this, it affords you the opportunity to do it. You know, like if it truly is open, like why can't you go to Kuat Drive Yards and get yourself a new fucking ship? If you could,
well, I'm sure like development reasons are why we won't be able to, but yeah, it'd be sweet if we could all, buy something from Corellia in the family of the Falcon or the family of the Outrider. I mean, the Outrider and the Falcon, they scream scoundrel ships. I mean, that's kind of what they were made for. This just, I don't know. I mean, I guess she is a rookie, doesn't quite have the credits and the cred to work a deal to get a better ship. But that's the one thing I've seen from this game. I'm just like, poo. It's just, it's a poo ship design. Very boring.
Hey, man.
Very, just plain Jane.
It could be a fucking beater. And that's the thing. Like in our D&D game, I gave you guys a pretty sweet ship.
Not bad.
Like right off the bat.
Yeah, but we fucking we stole it though, didn't we?
That's true. You did steal it. You did. Yeah, you guys did steal a pretty sweet ship right off the bat.
And then we got our Toydarian buddy to change the codes on it. Now we're ready to fucking kick some ass.
There you go. Teaser content for Scoundrels of the New Republic. Yeah. If you guys haven't watched the show yet,
you got to figure that out when we'll be dropping it. I'm pretty sure we've done Chapter 0, Chapter 1. They're out and available. You can check them out on youtube.com/Star Wars Time Show. But we'll be dropping Chapter 2. It looks like the first week of August. I don't know the exact date, but I'm going to be out of town. And the way news is coming in, it's not going to be worth Nick doing a solo unless he wants to. So it's time for the next episode of Scoundrels. And I think we're going to record Chapter 3 in August. It seems we're getting like one chapter a month, which is just fine. It's just fine.
Yeah, no, I mean, hey, that's a good, it's a good cadence for people to be able to find time in their schedule to do a show and then also for us to release it. So, keep your eyes out for that because it was a fun one. I think everybody's starting to get in the groove of their characters. And
I think I just did a spoiler too, but oh well, not that many people listen. So
it's all good.
It doesn't matter. All right, real quick, we got a little PSA for you here. We're using Bespin Bulletin for this. I do like the guy, even though he's always begging for money and stuff. But good for him. I wish I had that ability, because then maybe people would think we're bigger and more important than we are. But anyways, last week at SDCC, someone on Reddit, SpiderFan77, was at the Lego booth. And noticed something on their coming attractions board that said Lego Star Wars Mandoween, celebrate the season. And another image, someone grabbed a poster at the Lego Brickbuster video booth at SDCC. So it is looking like, Nick, and this has kind of been the tradition the past few years since Disney Plus is around, that we get a animated special for the holidays, be it, Christmas, Thanksgiving, Halloween. And it looks like we're getting another Halloween, which we had, I think, last year, 2 years ago with Poe Dameron. So it looks like Lego Star Wars Mandoween will be a thing, more than likely Disney Plus. coming out in October, but nothing official yet. This is just something people scraped from SDCC. So that's what we're here for, right? There's always time for Star Wars time. And even though we barely talk about Star Wars over the summer, we're still here to learn you. All right. Well,
yeah, no, I mean, these are always little fun things for sure.
So here's what we're gonna do. We as usual had plenty of hot air to spit. So I'm gonna save the special topic, but I do want to tease it because I started writing notes down after one day, just out of the blue. I forget, Nick. We were talking about it was a random conversation about Tarkin, and we just kind of got in the weeds with it. And we actually got good feedback on that. Like, hey, we'd like you guys to just talk about just more random shit. Like, not necessarily news, but just hear your fan speculation or your fan fiction on something Star Wars. So I if things come to mind, I tend to write them down. So the one I've been kind of sitting on that we will get to at some point in time is bigger hero planet, Naboo or Alderaan? So I think that could be a fun little, 5-10 minute discussion, or with Nick and I, you never know, 15, 20, 30.
I mean, that could go a fucking hour.
that's on the back burner. And again, we listen to you. So if there are topics or just random shit you'd like to hear our thoughts on, opinion on, our fan fiction on, you know what to do. Hit that Discord. It's open. Drop them in Cantina chat. DM us, do what you got to do. Star Wars Time .show on IG. Send a message and we will add it to the list of stuff to talk about on a rainy day. But since we have been just expelling all sorts of mouth gas, it's time for the SWTS fan segment. That's right, my friends. We do it every week. One of the only Star Wars podcast to dedicate a segment to our very, very tiny but loyal and supportive fan base. So we always do the question of the week. This week, I threw it up on IG. It made it over to Twitter. We got some Twitter replies, some IG replies. So we'll start with that, and then we'll end with the new and maybe improved top 5. It was quite a different experience this past week. We'll talk about it a little bit once we get there. But for now, let's do a little screen swapping and see what fans had to say about this week's question, which asked them about
Rebels.
Star Wars Rebels characters in Ahsoka. So let's go ahead and get these up, Nick. I'll start with the first few.
Cool.
Oh, man.
Yes.
This is a whole new thing with Slack and OBS here. Okay, you can do it, Slack. It's like it's got to have the window active to even realize it. There it is. Look at that. See, I'm trying some things. I mean, listen, losing a 16,000 follower account that I've dumped 5 years into sucked, but there definitely are some upsides. We were able to clear the grid. It's all our content now. I'm trying a few things. I'm doing either a random quote of the day, Star Wars history of the day. I've got templates now for show clips if we ever do it, for our picks of the week. So check it out. It's a little bit different. Star Wars Time .show. We're still trying to cater to you Star Wars artists out there, but it's mostly content we create now and not just reposting your stuff. So engagement is down, growth is down, to be expected. I'm not really gonna sit here and worry about it too much, but keep us in your thoughts. Keep pumping up the Star Wars Time show, because we took a pretty big hit last week with Meta wiping out our account. But all right, here we go. Question of the week time. Who's your favorite Star Wars Rebel character and why? Just kind of leading people into Ahsoka. We had our boy Klondike, who hasn't been around in a while, but I think he's dealing with some life shit. He says, Old Man Rex, because it's Rex, but old. And I dig it. I don't know, man. The way Tamara's been talking, he sounds lonely. I mean, I know he's a jokester, and recently he's like, yeah, I'm going to Lucasfilm to make sure they don't forget about me and Boba, and he's probably just full of shit, but you never truly know. Do you think we'll get the old guy, or has he died at this point? Just didn't we try to figure out his age? Wasn't he going to be like in his 80s if he makes it to the Mandoverse timeline?
He was going to be old, because in fucking in ROTJ, his confirmed character from ROTJ is like old. That dude's definitely.
I mean, he's old as fucking Rebels. I mean, he's got a bald head and a white beard. You gotta remember, they're all accelerated. So I think we had him at like in his 60s around the Rebels timeline. So yeah, he'd be pushing like 70 something.
It's got to, and like the thing is like, if he's in it, that's what it's going to turn into. It's going to be like, well, how old is this fucking guy? And what do you mean by accelerated aging? Like, is accelerate? It's like, do you literally only accelerate the aging between like when they're born to 20 years old, and then after that it's normal? Because if that's the case, then like very different in terms of like life trajectory. But if they have accelerated aging all the way through their life, this motherfucker is dead and long dead. Like,
or like very geriatric and probably wouldn't be doing the old man Captain Rex type of stuff we'd want him to see. Now, don't get me wrong.
Not at all.
I'd love to see like a bloated Tamara, shaved head, white beard. Because you gotta remember, old Captain Rex put on a few pounds. He's not.
Yeah, dude, you would have to get a different.
He's
actor,
not the guy.
Like I don't
see him Bad Batch. I mean, he was living the good life with Gregor and Wolf on that desert planet, fishing for shit in the desert.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I think it would be. I mean, of course, I would love to see him, but it's like, at what point do you have to be like, I'm sorry, all of these clones that you like are dead because of their accelerated aging?
Fuck the Republic, right? It's their fault.
Yeah, it's like, or you have to write in something. And like I said, this was a storyline that was happening in the old EU where like the clones figured out how to stop the accelerated aging.
There you go.
Like,
yeah, you could always write that in, right? I mean, again, we're talking about science fiction, fiction being the key word. So sure. Yeah. Remember,
I mean, just
Ahsoka, when she ripped the chip out, she also stopped my accelerated aging. Done.
Yeah. It's like, dude, like you can edit genes now and it's fucking 2023. So like in a futuristic society, you can definitely hire some fucking side room gene editing doctor to go in and fix your aging problem. Wouldn't be
Hemlock's relative.
Yeah, something like, so I'm like, they definitely need to address it though. It needs to be addressed in some way, because if you toss them in this show, then you have to be like, well, where's the rest of them? Like, how old are they? Are they 80? Are they 60? Are they, like what's going on? But I would not be upset.
No, not at all. And hopefully people aren't taking that way. I mean, we're all for it. Like, listen, I would love to see it. I would get up. I would point. You could put me in the meme of Leo from that movie, everyone does, where he's pointing at the TV, for sure. All right, up next, we got our boy Nate Strong, Corona 4. Man, this is tough, but I'm leaning toward Hera. She's strong, capable, caring, an awesome pilot, a dependable leader, and I love her relationship with Kanan. I'm not gonna lie, people. I called these responses today. Hera is heads and tails above and beyond what the other characters some of you picked. So, spoiler alert.
She's the leader, baby.
Yeah, I mean,
she's the leader.
Hera was all over it. All right, hey, look at it. We got Twitter replies now. I mean, who the fuck knew that?
How did this even get on
Well,
Twitter?
I have an IFTT set up, so if we tag something Star Wars Time Show on IG, it sends it to Twitter now. So, because, without talking about too much behind the scenes SWTS business here, because of Genius Boy Musk and all these appy changes and X and whatnot.
Can't share stuff.
Yeah, the shit we used to use on our site, just it's useless now. It doesn't share shit anywhere. So just trying to make life a little bit easier so I don't have to post individually to Twitter and Instagram. So blah, blah, blah. And our Facebook page has been shut down for months. That's another thing Meta did. We put in a review. It's been under review for, I think, 2 or 3 months at this point in time. So
yes.
Who gives a shit, right? But anyways, here we go. We're getting some Twitter love or X love, or can't call it X because it's already owned by other companies. Smart man. Scales Sibbin says, Kanan Jarrus because he is a great partner and dad. Also, his final moment was noble. Truly was one of the most touching moments in all of Star Wars, even though it was animated. I remember when I did my rewatch with my daughter a few years ago, and it still hit me, and she looked at me and was like, why are you such a pussy? So I agree with Scales here. All right.
Nice.
Nick,
nice.
I'll click you into the next set here.
Yes. Next up is Mando _mugshots. This is from Instagram. Mando says Hera, the mum of the group that keeps them focused, and love her accent when she slips back into her native Twi'lek tongue. I'm going to miss that in Ahsoka for sure. Yeah, I mean, like the voice is definitely going to be different because it's Mary and not the voice actress who played
Vanessa
Hera.
Marshall, I believe, is the voice.
So yeah, the accent's going to be different, but hopefully all of the sensibilities and personality traits are maintained.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Hera is a fantastic character. That's why I was excited that they gave her even more love in Bad Batch. You know, we got kind of a little prequel check-in on her. She's just great, and you know, she's my type of woman. If you've listened to this show in the past, you know I kind of have a little bit of a thing for women with necktails. And that green skin it does something for me. It gets my juices flowing.
Good, yeah.
Nice and creepy.
Definitely does. Good stuff there. Thank you, Mando. Mugshots. Next up, we have the Rebel Collector on Instagram. They said Kanan, he is the result of what the Clone Wars made of a lot of survivors. He didn't even finish his Jedi training, and when he met Ezra, he was confused, but did his best for Ezra, for his ghost family, and last for him. Chopper 2, his favorite warlord, ha ha ha. So yeah, I mean, Kanan. It seems like it's a lot of Kanan and Hera. I'm surprised that there's been no Ezra responses yet.
We might have one coming up if it made the upload. Yeah, remember, I could barely upload these because hey, it's the Star Wars time show. Nothing ever works when we need it to. So
good point. Well, here he is, right here.
Violation.
Visual Force. He says Ezra purely because of his character development throughout the seasons. I guess the same could be said for Kanan, but Ezra really went from an annoying kid to a true Jedi by the end of the series. Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think that Ezra definitely ranks up there for me as well. I mean, I really enjoy Ezra and Sabine as like a duo of characters, and then also individually because of like all of the stuff around Sabine's parentage, her life as a Mandalorian, her betrayal of the Mandalorian, stuff like that. I'm glad Visual Force brought this up because if you think about it, Star Wars Rebels, probably more so than most Star Wars, truly did have legitimate character growth for all of its mains, maybe outside of Hera because she was already kind of with it, than anything else. I mean, Kanan went from, you know, fuck this kid, fuck Jedi, fuck clones, to sacrificing himself for his new family. Ezra literally went from a shithead that like was annoying and stealing shit and feeling mopey and sad for himself to a guy that, you know, arguably kicked off the Rebel Alliance and gave them a fighting chance by taking Thrawn off the map. Sabine, again, you know, she was kind of veering away from her Mandalorian culture, a little punky. But by the end, she was wielding the Darksaber and giving it to Bo-Katan as a respected leader. Chopper's just a fucking crazy murder bot, so he stayed the same. Zeb, too, he had growth. I mean, his growth in particular with, the spy, the guy. Callus, Agent Callus. Callus. Yeah,
and the growth that he showed there. So, yeah, I mean, I like Visual Force's response. It reminds me of how well Star Wars Rebels really handled its characters. I mean, probably better than anything before it. You definitely, like, if the Clone Wars didn't have its final season, it would have blown out that character growth as well. But that final season really, at least for Ahsoka and Rex,
it like
helped
rounded those characters out.
Yep.
Yeah. So good stuff there. Thank you, Visual Force. Next up is Baron's Black Series, our good old friend Spencer. He says, good guy, Kanan Jarrus. He started as a reluctant teacher and scared former Jedi, or I don't know if he meant scared or scarred, but I guess they would both work. Scared former Jedi, and through the power of love from his chosen family and the push of a precious student, precocious student, he rose to become one of the most selfless and caring Jedi ever. And then he says, bad guy, Thrawn. It will always be Thrawn. He is such a different kind of bad guy, methodical. Honestly, after reading the Thrawn novels, I don't consider him much of a bad guy either, really. So, I mean, honestly, if you do read the Thrawn stuff, like Thrawn is a person that like he doesn't really look at things as good or bad. He just looks at them as like things that he is doing, things that he's interested in.
I've been kind of with Baron, like, because I don't have any insights into the blue guy outside of Rebels and what Nick has said, and I'm fine with that. Like again, words and shit, I don't care. But I know I've kind of asked this to you before. Like he doesn't seem like he would jive with the Empire. He doesn't have the same motivations. He doesn't have the same goals. Yet it's like, as you've explained to me, it was kind of an ends to a means, sort of.
Yeah, exactly. Like it was like, if I do this stuff for these people, then they can help me do stuff for my people. Is kind of how it all broke down. Obviously, like he got like way further into it than probably he initially imagined, or like, you know, because like. He was literally like, you know, trying to broker a deal with the Empire to help them to like help the Chiss, like the Chiss ascendancy and like the incoming invasion of Grisks and stuff like that. So it was more of like, hey, like heads up, like I will help you guys, but like there's a bigger threat out there that's not only going to be a threat to my people, it's going to be a threat to your people too.
So I mean, like, he got conned by Palpatine in the end anyways.
Yeah, I mean, like ultimately, like the work that he was doing was probably never going to be repaid by Palpatine.
No, I mean, let's be. So
like also,
that's where you almost have to question Thrawn. Like, did he have an ulterior motive even for the leadership?
So what I was going to say, what I was going to say is like ultimately he probably thought that he could like unseat Palpatine himself. Like there was probably like, I mean,
not even falling down a shaft can unseat this motherfucker now. So
yeah. Not even a literal explosion. Like, that doesn't kill him. But like,
do you know what I'm saying though? Like, listen, I get it. I see Thrawn's brilliance, his strategy, his tactics. But if you really get down to the nitty gritty and think about it, he's a fucking idiot. Like he was a pawn just like anyone else in Palpatine's empire.
Yeah, I mean, like he was definitely duped initially, but I think that at a certain point, like he realized, like, all right, I got played, but like I'm gonna spin this, and I'm gonna like flip this on its head to make it like beneficial for me still.
Right. And then Sheev goes, Psst, "Hey, Darth Vader, go fuck him up."
Yeah.
Okay, basically. Boss, and that's it. Like, okay, it's done. Like,
yeah, I mean. He definitely got a little bit in over his head for sure. But
well, I mean,
we'll see what happens.
Right. Like,
I mean, obviously,
he's supposed to be the big bad in the Mandoverse. So here we go. Well, I guess we'll see how bad he truly is. But I think, you know, Spencer brought up a good point. I felt that way too. All right, that's it. I definitely was uploading repeats at that point in time. So. Yep,
and then this last one. So that was it. The last one was from Baron's Black Series. Thank you very much to everybody who responded. Thank you to all of you who's already refollowed our new Instagram account. I think we're up to around 450 new follows, or like, you know, rebuilding the following, and we're up to 450 again. So if you have not yet followed, we're up to 480, so we're almost at 500. If you have not yet followed, please go follow us on Instagram at StarWarsTime.show, on the IG. That is our new home. So give us a follow. If you're already following us, signal boost us if you can.
YouTube too. I mean, really, at this point with IG being a wasteland and losing all that, we got to shift the numbers to YouTube. Let's go. Keep it coming.
Yeah, bring some YouTube subs over there too if you have.
Tuesday nights, or they can watch the replay. All right, you don't have to be here live. We're nice. We let you watch the recording. And then we got the audio stuff coming out a day after. So let's pump these numbers up like on real platforms, not meta platforms. All right. Yeah. So Nick, that brings us to the top 5. It's slightly different now. So I'll go ahead and explain it, then let Nick kick off his selections. So we used to have a very nice system where you'd use our hashtag Star Wars Time Show, and you'd add tag Star Wars Time Show. And then every morning I would look at all that stuff. and take your image and repost it to our profile to try to give you a bump, with also hoping to get a little love from the interaction. But we were shut down last week. We don't know why. We can only guess. Maybe someone reported us for taking content. None of it makes sense. It's not worth, diving into. You're never going to figure it out. That's the power of social media companies. Watch your asses. So the way things happen now to try to save ourselves from getting flamethrowed from Mark, still use the tag. Even more importantly now than ever, when you want us to see your work, do add tag Star Wars Time Show. Now, I'm not even talking type in at Star Wars Time Show in the caption, like add tag Star Wars Time Show. So if you do both of those things, I'm going to see a shot. So these days, instead of featuring them on our profile, what I do is I grab the images. I make sure the artist's name is still there. There's a watermark, all that fun stuff. And we release these daily picks of the week reels. So little videos that kind of show off the ones I feature. And then what Nick does now is, I don't even know how he does it. Like I feel like his job has gotten harder because Instagram has made hashtags mostly useless in terms of being able to see posts in order. You can't. You can only see top posts or recent top posts, and recent top posts can go back as far as May. But he did it. He picked his 5 out of the hashtag Star Wars Time Show and the ad tag Star Wars Time Show. Maybe he watched some of the videos. I don't know, but he found 5, and now we're going to honor that.
To be honest with you, these are all straight from the tagged section. Okay. Just straight from
he's
tagged.
Not wrong. Like we want you to use the hashtag, but truly the best way to get seen on Instagram for any account is add tag the account. Okay? Plain and simple.
So that's how I got these. So let's kick it off. And I'll tell you right now, some of these are new accounts, some of these are old accounts, some of these are low follow accounts, some of these are high follow accounts. Like it's all over the place. So if you want to get involved, like I said before, add tag Star Wars Time Show, because that's where I pulled the top 5 from. And hey, look at this. First up, this is at Comic Dad Shots, first time feature. He's got 599 followers on Instagram right now. So if you're not following him, make sure to go follow at Comic Dad Shots. And look at this. I mean, like, this is an incredible shot, reminds me of some Sir Dork work, some old school, it's a
stormtrooper with like a javelin. It's fucking great.
Yeah, I know. It's like, it's just an awesome shot. Everything Kylo brings back like old vibes from Jesse.
That is an account, man. I hope he's okay. He kind of dropped off the face of the earth.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He might have gotten involved with like his family life more and stuff like that. Who knows? But this definitely like gave me like Sir Dork, everything. Kylo
we got Comic Dads in here. He stuck around. he somehow sat through the slog and has made it to his honoring.
The whole show. But yeah, so I mean, this shot is incredible. So what we're seeing here is a battle-worn and tested stormtrooper carrying a giant rocket launcher over his shoulder, and an explosion happening in the background. You can click through some of the other images as well to see different angles or different variations of this shot. And it's just great weathering job done on the figure itself. Great job capturing the bokeh in the background from the explosion. Perfect use of smoke and atmosphere in the shot itself. So just all around, just a fantastic shot here from Comic Dad Shots on Instagram.
Yeah, you're right with the Sir Dork stuff here, and Comic Dad just reinforced it. And he's been learning from the master. But when I look at this Comic Dad, I'm like, damn it, why don't I do this anymore? Because the fun to me, Nick, it was looking at what the camera captured, and I can only assume that's why Comic Dad loaded these other shots, because sometimes it is hard to pick your favorite one, because you never know how practical effects are going to react the moment that fucking shutter shuts. And you can get wildly different looking lighting, wildly different looking effects. And, as I scroll through here, I'm like, damn it, I used to love that part. Even though you're looking at probably 100 shots per figure, that was fun kind of whittling down. All right, did my camera capture the explosion the way I had it in my mind? So there we go, Comic Dad Shots.
There we go. Good stuff. Next up, in the top 5 is at 6, the number 1, 6 underscore photos. They've made the top 5 for sure. And what we have here is just like a fantastic portrait style shot of good old Anakin Skywalker.
Way better than my portraits.
This is Rot's Anakin that we're looking at here. Still whipping his blue lightsaber. It has his General Skywalker garb on. You can see the symbol of the Galactic Republic there on his shoulder pauldron. And it really is just a fantastic portrait that uses great use of atmosphere, excellent use of the blue lighting from the lightsaber to like give a blue glow on the left side of the portrait and also on the left side of Anakin's face. I mean, just all around excellent portrait of Anakin.
Yeah, I dig this, man. I mean, I have this figure. It's a kick-ass figure. If you are in the 1/6 scale and you can still get this guy, he's highly recommended. I'll tell you what, Nick, they and we put out a preview of it. Hot Toys is they're releasing a real hair Episode 3 Anakin Skywalker figure. And if you look at the pictures, it's ridiculous. Like, I mean, yeah, like you have to fucking like comb the motherfucker's hair. And at first I was like, oh, I got to get this. But then I remembered it's a real hair Chewbacca and they're a nightmare. Like they ship them with a fucking brush. So you can like sit there and work it out and make sure it doesn't look like he's like an 80s stay-at-home mother. So I'm just happy with my plastic hair Anakins at this point in time. Don't think I'm going for the real hair, but Hot Toys, it sounds like it sounds like they're going to start a new line. It's like DX Artisan series that's going to have rooted real hair on the figures. That's
fucking weird as hell, but I'm sure people will buy it.
It looks great, but like I think the upkeep is going to be too much. I already have my Rot's Anakin 1/6 scale, so fuck it. But it's not about us. It's not about rooted hair. It's about 616 and their great portrait. It's good enough that I feel like editing some of my portrait shots from about 4 or 5 months ago that I have not shared. Because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 new Hot Toys to put away, which means picture time, and I'm actually kind of getting excited for it. I've been exploring a lot of my hobbies. It's like hobby ADD, but I guess that's okay. I'm doing something right in life if I have hobby ADD. I can't bitch too much.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean that's a good thing to have.
So that's our boy at 616 underscore photos on the gram.
Good stuff. Next up is Star Wars Rick, Star Wars underscore Rick
when
on
worlds collide.
Instagram. Yeah, I know. I love this shot. So what we're seeing here is basically a split or like a mashup shot between Indiana Jones and Star Wars. And what you see it through is the lens of the two characters that Harrison. On one side of the bar, you got Han sitting right next to Lando. On the other side of the bar, you got Indy sitting right next to Sala. They're sitting like right next to each other in a conversation. I love the caption from it too.
You see Marianne and Leia in the back talking.
Yeah, Marianne and Leia in the back. You got
Boba and glasses
Fett, and
guy.
Then you have Abner Ravenwood in the back. Yeah. Chewie's in the back too, right next to. I think that's his colleague from Indy's colleague from college. I can't remember his
just
name.
like look at Han Solo's look. Like Han is kind of looking at Indy like, get the fuck away from me. Yeah, like what's going on here?
I mean, it's such a cool shot that incorporates like the two of the Lucasfilm franchises that Han Solo has helped, or that Harrison Ford has helped build.
You're like my kid. Hey, there's Han Solo and Indiana Jones. Like, nah, that's a real person.
His real name is Harrison Ford. No, I mean, I just like the way that Star Wars Rick put this together, getting all those characters in there, having basically like all of the matching sides of both of them, like they're foibles or
whatever that's called. The parallel characters between Jones and Star Wars are definitely present. Very well done.
Yeah, so love it. At Star Wars underscore Rick, make sure to give them a follow because this is a banger of a shot for sure. Really good stuff. Next up in the top 5,
fucking amazing.
Yeah, I mean this one is so hard not to put in. This is from at Press Pause Photography, Press underscore Pause underscore Photography underscore War. And this is basically a scene recreation shot
It's
from
my scene,
ROTJ.
man. I mean, this image checks everything for me. I mean, we've talked about this. This is my movie. This is my scene. These are my moments.
Yeah, I mean, this is the ultimate moment, the ultimate showdown, father and son showdown on Death Star 2. In the background, you can see Palpatine, but the star of the show and the star of this shot here is definitely Vader wielding his red lightsaber. The red glow just illuminates the whole shot. In the foreground, you see the back of Luke with his green saber out and ready to duel his father, the ultimate duel to decide the fate of the galaxy, you could say. And man, I mean, Press Pause really just fucking brought this shot to life by really blowing out the colors on these lightsabers.
That's it,
and
man.
having
It's like
it illuminate
it's
the whole
some
shot.
some of the best lightsaber VFX I've seen. I know that's silly because it's all in post and it's Photoshop, but it works. Like Vader looks fantastic. I mean, this is another shot that just proves my point that he is the coolest looking character of all time. Good guys, bad guys, it don't fucking matter. I mean, the dude, you're never gonna beat that. You're never gonna beat that. The fucking helmet, the mask, the chest plate, the electronics on the torso. God, it looks great. I mean, this is an advertisement for Hot Toys figures too. That's the other thing. I mean, I have this Vader. It's one of my prized pieces. I love him. I talk to him. I caress him, put him to bed. Fantastic stuff. I mean, Press Pause photography, nailed it. Lighting, figures, placement, perspective, focus, quality.
I mean, Connor is like so good.
Well, yeah, he's a filmmaker.
I put him up there
he
as,
understands this shit, you know? Like he understands how stories are told through imagery.
No, dude, it's like he's like a top tier creator.
I will tell you, this Vader figure's hands though suck. Like this is a guy, Nick.
Really?
If I had him outside, he may have got tossed like SH Figure Arts TLJ Luke, but his hands do not want to go on their pegs very well because his whole hand is the glove and everything. So you gotta like jam the peg through the glove part, and hopefully you hit the little hole at the end. Okay, this is not sex education, by the way. We're talking about playing with our action figure accessories. Jamming holes. All right.
Good stuff. At Press Pause Photography on Instagram. Make sure to give them a follow. And the final one in the top 5 this week comes from Anthony_501st. This is another first-time feature here on Star Wars Time Show's Top 5 with this new format. Anthony501st gives us an awesome, almost like poster style shot here for Clone Wars, Star Wars Clone Wars TV series, with our feature character being Wolf up here, and he's flanked by 3 other of the good old. I think these are Phase 2 clones because they're like different helmet shape, right?
Those are Phase 2ers.
Phase 2 clones here. So I just loved it. I thought it was a great job of like posing all of these figures with Wolf as your front and center, using the Star Wars Clone Wars logo on it, almost making it like an advertisement for Clone Wars, like, hey, go watch it. These awesome characters are in it. And then I don't know where he is in the world, but it's just a cool background he's got him behind too, almost like a beach, kind of like a beach cavern type of area. So awesome work here, Anthony 501st. Yeah, really enjoyed the shot.
Yep. I mean, clones always look great, especially when you put lasers in their hands. I mean, we got, Wolf's up there, and looks like you got some Wolf Pack and some 501s. I mean, listen, I just sat here, essentially pleasured myself to Darth Vader, so I am very much into what becomes the Imperials, and we all know, the clones, at least the armor and whatnot, shaped that look for the TKs and then the full-on stormtroopers. So I've always appreciated the clones. Are you a Phase 1 helmet, Nick, or Phase 2?
I'm a big fan of the Phase 1.
Phase 1? You like the shark fin and the slit visors?
I like the fin. Yeah, I like the fin. I like the visor shapes in those too. Yeah, I think that those are probably my favorite helmet shape of everything.
You always got to wonder like how a Wolf character got to do like the the slit eyes, like if we're looking in this shot from
distinctly
Anthony, he's got a special look, and a few others had that. I think Rex whipped his phase 1 for a little bit longer than most. But I don't know. I mean, I might be phase 2. I do like but phase 2 gets very close to the Stormtroopers, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's pretty similar. But I like the phase 1, how it retains like a bit more of that Mandalorian helmet style. I like phase 2 too, but phase 1.
Yeah, you would have think when Django sold his jizz, he'd be like, "Hey, do you guys want to learn about our armor or anything for these clones?
Yeah,
or are you just going to use that Durasteel?
No, you're just going to put them in plastic.
Yeah, that plastic Durasteel.
It's like plastic. Okay, well, I guess you can do that too. But yeah, so good stuff. Anthony_501st on Instagram. Make sure to give him a follow. That's the end of the new top 5, and that's the end of this show. So Matt, go ahead and close us out.
That is the sound of the end of the show. That is a new sound we have here. Or it's the sound of happiness. You never know. But Nick is not wrong. 271 is about to be put to bed. But thanks for coming out here, playing with us, hanging out. Comical Content Goblin, Comic Dad 42, some new faces in there. Hopefully you'll come back. If you are new and you're sitting here watching our dumbasses, why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button maybe, and maybe drop a comment, tell your friends, do the likes up, all that fun stuff. I forgot to hit the entire cast. There you go. Like, share, subscribe, and notifications. That's what we need you to do on YouTube. If you forget how to find us on YouTube, that's why we got StarWarsTime.net, which you can check out on the internet. As long as you're connected, it's free of charge. StarWarsTime.net. We've got links to YouTube. We've got links, even better, to the podcast platforms. That's right. If you don't want to watch us live or see our ugly faces, we put this show out on podcast platforms a day after it is done being broadcasted. So typically Wednesdays, you're going to find us on the Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Pandora, the big stuff. So if you're on there, or if you're not on there, why don't you go ahead and follow along just for shits and giggles? We got to pad those numbers. We need the AI overlords to know we are cool, more so now than ever, because they kind of literally, the AI overlords cut us off at the legs there with Instagram. So just keep it going, man. Pound those drums, my friends. We do appreciate you. Like I said, new people, hopefully you'll come back, tell a friend, trick a friend maybe. If you thought it was torture and you hate somebody, let them know that, hey, this was awesome. Go watch it. Tuesdays, 5 p. East, youtube.com/Star Wars Time Show. And then go, I just wasted 2 hours of their life. But in the end, if you've been around, and hopefully if you're new, you will come around to our mantra. Hamina, hamina, hamina. There's always time for Star Wars time, okay? There truly is. If you think about the statement, say it to yourself. Oh, Comic Dad, we're on TikTok. They don't give a fuck about us over there either. So that's why we got to do this every week. At this point in time, I will say we are being held down by the man. Maybe it's the Pizzagate people. I don't know. I will definitely buy into a conspiracy theory about why Matt and Nick don't have a larger following. Because I'll tell you right now, we're better than any of the other motherfuckers you will watch on YouTube. You're not going to get all this grievance bullshit or the wang. You're not going to get all this bullshit like people getting fired every other day from Lucasfilm. You get it real. You get educated. You get finance. You get video games. You get what you get. There's always time for Star Wars time. And don't forget, if you listen to the Star Wars Time Show, the Force will be with you always.